Chapter 210. After glaring at Fong Duo, Zhao Xiaochun immediately regained her cute and elegant appearance and stepped forward. Handsome, my name is Zhao Qingqing. My courtesy name is Xiaochun and my nickname is Beauty. I live in the capital and I'm a virtuous lady. Can I have your contact details? Fong Duo immediately took 3 steps to the side, acting as if he did not know Zhao Xiaochun. In his heart, he couldn't help but complain that Zhao Xiaochun's infatuation couldn't be changed in this lifetime. At this moment, Fong Duo suddenly saw a familiar figure walking straight to the youth in black. Lu Jie walked to Lin Yuan and Wen Yu's side. Lin Yuan, Wen Yu, I've kept you waiting. Fong Duo immediately stepped forward and patted Lu Jie on the shoulder. Lu Jie, you're finally back. The Radiance Federation's officials had not announced Lu Jie's return in the news. However, everyone in the Radiance 100 sequence already knew that Lu Jie would be participating in the Radiance 100 sequence competition this year. 2 years ago, Lu Jie was sequence 39 of the Radiance 100 sequence. Although it had been 2 years since they last met, Zhang Xian had no idea how strong Lu Jie was. However, even if Lu Jie's strength did not improve at all, it would not be a problem for him to rank 70th or 80th in the Radiance 100 sequence. Since Lu Jie had returned to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence competition, it meant that his contracted source-type life form, the Insect Queen, must have fully recovered. Fong Duo and Lu Jie had met more than once in the Radiance 100 sequence duels and in the Star Web Tower's Celestial Stairway duels. Fong Duo had always kept Lu Jie's terrifying strength in mind. Everyone in the Radiance 100 sequence knew why Lu Jie had left that day. Therefore, apart from acknowledging Lu Jie's strength, Fong Duo also felt respect for him. Lu Jie nodded and greeted Fong Duo. Then, he turned to Zhao Xiaochun, who had a love-struck look on her face. Hey, Zhao Xiaochun, it's been 2 years. How come you're still a love-struck Arabian? Compared to Fong Duo, Lu Jie was obviously more familiar with Zhao Xiaochun. Lu Jie had teamed up with Zhao Xiaochun when he went on a mission before. When Zhao Xiaochun heard the words love-struck Arabian monster, she immediately jumped up in anger. Lu Jie, I originally wanted to treat you to a meal, but since you called me a love-struck glutton, it'll be you treating me to a meal instead. As Zhao Xiaochun spoke, Lin Yuan even saw a flash of anticipation in her eyes when she mentioned eating. Lu Jie quickly waved his hand. I'm afraid that I'll be chased out by the owner of the restaurant if I bring you out for a meal. Now, all the restaurants in the capital don't dare to hold eating competitions because of you. Don't you know that? Upon hearing that, Zhao Xiaochun stole a glance at Lin Yuan and wished she could immediately rush over and cover his mouth. Right now, Zhao Xiaochun wished she could have a battle with Lu Jie and Fong Duo on Star Web. Zhao Xiaochun wondered if she could still maintain a ladylike image in front of this handsome guy. Fong Duo focused all his attention on the Class 2 Creation Master Retainer Knight Crest on Lu Jie's chest. When Lu Jie walked over, Fong Duo noticed that when Lu Jie stopped beside the black-clothed youth, he deliberately lagged behind by half a shoulder. At first, Fong Duo did not feel anything. However, when he saw the Class 2 Creation Master Retainer crest on Lu Jie's chest and recalled Lu Jie's previous performance, he immediately confirmed that the black-clothed youth in front of him was the Creation Master that Lu Jie had sworn to be. Otherwise, given Lu Jie's character and identity, he would definitely not deliberately lag behind this black-clothed youth by half a shoulder. Fong Duo did not understand why Lu Jie had chosen to become a Class 2 Creation Master's retainer. However, Fong Duo knew that if this youth in front of him became a Class 2 Creation Master at this age, he would really be an incredible existence. As a member of the Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team and a Radiance 100 sequence member like Long Tao, Fong Duo was very familiar with Long Tao. The black-clothed youth in front of him looked to be only 17 or 18 years old. When Long Tao was 17 or 18 years old, he seemed to have only been a Pinnacle Class 1 Creation Master. When he was almost 20 years old, he had only become a Class 2 Creation Master. Fong Duo took a step forward and walked to Lin Yuan's side before extending his hand and saying, "Hello, let's get to know each other." "Hello, let's get to know each other. My name is Fong Duo. I'm 24 years old today. I like to eat meat and don't like to go out with Zhao Xiaochun. When Lin Yuan saw Fong Duo take the initiative to greet him, he reached out and shook hands with him. My name is Lin Yuan. I'm 18 years old this year, and I like to eat meat too. Fong Duo's eyes lit up. I love meat. Good taste indeed. When Zhao Xiaochun saw Fong Duo shaking hands with Lin Yuan, she immediately extended her hand as well. My name is Zhao Qingqing. My courtesy name is Xiaochun, and my nickname is Meili. I'm 21 years old this year, and I like to study. I don't like to eat anything. Because I'm anorexic. Lin Yuan's brows twitched as he looked at the lonely piece of cake on the table. Lin Yuan could not help but want to say, if she's like this when she's anorexic, then what if she's not anorexic? Fong Duo couldn't stand it anymore and immediately pulled Zhao Xiaochun back. I will bring her inside to wait for the auction. Nice to meet you, Lin Yuan. After saying that, he forcefully dragged Zhao Xiaochun toward the VIP section of the auction. Lu Jie also had a helpless look on his face. Zhao Xiaochun has always been this nonsensical. Lu Jie suddenly said very seriously, but Zhao Xiaochun is very strong. But Zhao Xiaochun is very strong. When I left the Radiance 100 sequence 2 years ago, Zhao Xiaochun was ranked 36th in the Radiance 100 sequence, 1 rank ahead of me. However, last year, Zhao Xiaochun had risen to 21st in the Radiance 100 sequence. 2 days ago, I carefully observed this year's sequence members' battles. Zhao Xiaochun is likely to be ranked in the top 15 this year. She can be considered a very powerful rookie in the Radiance 100 sequence. Lin Yuan was a little surprised that this girl, who said she was anorexic but was clearly gluttonous, was still so talented in the Radiance 100 sequence, a place where geniuses gathered. One really couldn't judge a book by its cover. Lin Yuan didn't expect that he would actually get to know 2 Radiance 100 sequence members by attending a private auction today. As for Fong Duo mentioning his identity as black, Lin Yuan roughly guessed what was going on. From their conversation, Lin Yuan knew that they were members of the guild club. In that case, they were probably looking for him because they wanted to recruit him into their club. However, Lin Yuan had no intention of joining another guild club. Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, and Wen Yu also walked to the VIP section and sat down, ready to participate in the next private auction. As soon as Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, and Wen Yu walked to the VIP section, they attracted a lot of attention. Of course, most of these gazes finally stopped on Lu Jie. Almost everyone present had a certain status, and the entry conditions for a private auction held by a King-class expert squad were relatively strict. There were even quite a number of King stage powerhouses present. The news of the 3 source-type items released in this auction was enough to attract most people. Moreover, in order to integrate resources, this King-class expert squad had also taken out many of their trump cards that were useless to their squad members. Soon, in less than 10 minutes, the auction officially began. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard a familiar but long-lost voice in his mind. Baiduan, read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 211. Upon hearing this long-lost voice, Lin Yuan was immediately delighted. It had been more than 4 months since Morbius had gone into a slumber to recover itself. Morbius had not woken up for the past 4 months, so its sudden awakening was really a surprise. Morbius, you're finally awake. When Morbius woke up from its slumber again, it immediately talked to Lin Yuan in his spiritual spatial zone. Morbius had signed a contract with Lin Yuan when he was 8 years old without Lin Yuan's knowledge. At that time, in order to protect Lin Yuan's spiritual energy, Morbius had chosen to seal itself and even damaged itself. It had used its slumber to ensure that Lin Yuan's spiritual energy would not collapse when he was only 8 years old at that time. Before Morbius had woken up for the first time a few months ago, Lin Yuan had never known that he had a Fae like Morbius. However, Morbius had been Lin Yuan's Fae for as long as 10 years. Therefore, Morbius' dependence and feelings for Lin Yuan had long been deeply integrated into its bones. Such feelings were no longer as simple as being connected by blood. Now that it had heard Lin Yuan's reply as soon as it woke up, Morbius could not help but feel a kind of joy. Lin Yuan, After waking up from this slumber, I'm considered to have recovered to my complete state. Upon hearing Morbius' words, Lin Yuan was slightly puzzled. However, when Lin Yuan went to sense Morbius' state, he was immediately surprised to find that Morbius actually had an additional ability compared to before it had fallen asleep. Lin Yuan used true data to check on Morbius' current situation. Fey name, Morbius, Fey species, : Fey grade, Bronze, 10/10, Fey type, Spatial/Mystery, Fey quality, Legend abilities Frowny Face true data. Digitize all complex information that cannot be distinguished by the naked eye. The digitized information may contain the truth that cannot be distinguished on the surface. Calm Mind, passive ability. The effect of Calm Mind can be enhanced according to the phase grade. Calm Mind can stabilize the mind and has a certain chance to resist negative states. Spirit Chi condensation. Gather the spirit chi in the air and the spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. The gathered spirit chi will form spirit chi crystals. Spirit chi crystals can enhance phase and source type life forms. Exclusive skill Frowny Face spirit lock. Morbius spatial zone can nurture phase. The initial grade of the Fey that Morbius spatial zone nurtures must not be higher than Morbius grade. Morbius is unable to level up, and its grade will increase along with the Fey that it nurtures. At the same time, Morbius can obtain the initial abilities of the Fey that it nurtures. However, Morbius will not obtain abilities when it levels up. Every time Morbius increases a grade, it will be able to nurture one more Fey. Pure Land of Bliss. The Spirit Lock spatial zone produces soil that can heal near-death phase injuries. The phase recovery time is determined by Morbius grade and the dying phase grade. Normal Spirit Lock. Jasmine Lily, Silver Eye, Fantasy Eye skills. Heal. Recovers wounds and replenishes life force. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Resuscitation Mark. Stores the healing energy released by the Jasmine Lily. The contestant can activate the mark to release the stored healing energy. Severed Growth. Comprehend the mysteries of plant growth. Even if a limb is severed, it can still grow slowly. Elite Spirit Lock. Spirit Gather Goldfish, Bronze X/Legend skills. Spirit Injection. Recover a certain amount of spiritual power in one go. Afterward, it will slowly recover the lost spiritual power. Exclusive skill. Spirit Chi Imprint. The spirit chi that is released is not released into the environment but stored in the spirit chi imprint. The spirit chi imprint will be branded on the contestant's body, and the contestant can release the stored spiritual power in the spirit chi imprint. Bronze Spirit Lock. Blue Flash Purple Butterfly, Bronze X/Legend skills. Silence Scale Powder. Releases a special scale powder with a silence effect, causing the target that comes into contact with the scale powder to be unable to communicate with spiritual power and release abilities. Exclusive skill. Scale Powder Halo. Its scale powder has a powerful reflective effect. The multifaceted reflection of the scale powder will cause the target enveloped by the scale powder to suffer from optical pollution, causing dizziness or even temporary blindness. Under true data, Lin Yuan found that the new skill that Morbius had obtained was called Spirit Chi Condensation. However, Lin Yuan did not know why Morbius would have an additional skill out of nowhere. Morbius and Lin Yuan were spiritually connected, so it sensed Lin Yuan's doubts and explained. Previously, due to the compression of my spiritual power, I sealed a portion of my abilities. I only woke up last time, but I've always been flawed. After I woke up this time, the seal on myself has been completely undone. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Morbius' ability, Spirit Chi Condensation, was very similar to him circulating his spiritual power to guide the pure spirit chi of heaven and earth into his body to promote the evolution of phase. However, Morbius' Spirit Chi Condensation was to store the thin spirit chi in the air and the spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone to form a spirit chi crystal. Morbius, how much spirit energy can the spirit energy crystals condensed by spirit energy condensation contain? Morbius replied, currently, a spirit chi crystal that has been condensed should be able to raise the Jasmine Lily's grade by 1 grade. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. Currently, it was very difficult for him to increase the Jasmine Lily's strength. This was because Lin Yuan was currently stuck at C rank as a spirit chi professional, If he wanted to evolve from a C-rank spirit chi professional to B-rank, even if he constantly enhanced phase every day, it would still take a very long time. During this period of time, Lin Yuan's strength increase would be very limited. Given Lin Yuan's current standard as a C-rank spirit chi professional, he would need at least a month to upgrade the Fantasy Eye Jasmine Lily from Silver Eye to Silver 2. During this month, Lin Yuan had to do nothing else. Apart from sleeping for 5 hours every day, he would use the rest of his time to enhance the Jasmine Lily. In Lin Yuan's opinion, it was a waste to upgrade the phase grades like this. Even if he spent a year to upgrade the Jasmine Lily, it would be impossible for him to upgrade the Fantasy Breed Jasmine Lily from silver to gold. It was also because it was currently very difficult for Lin Yuan to upgrade the Fantasy Breed phase grades that his strength was stuck at this stage. Lin Yuan was now a C-rank spirit chi professional. Given his current Fey equipment, he could have the Gold X/Fantasy Eye Jasmine Lily, the Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye Chimey, and the Gold X/Legend Acid Corrosion Queen Bee at his peak. However, the strength of the Jasmine Lily, Chimey, and the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee had yet to reach the maximum of Lin Yuan's current spirit chi professional rank. Lin Yuan's current strength was stronger than most of the younger generation's spirit chi professionals. However, there was still a huge gap between him and the Radiance 100 sequence. If he wanted to be ranked in the Radiance 100 sequence, he would need to have at least Platinum combat power. Lin Yuan's strongest combat power was only the Gold Eyes/Legend Acid Corrosion Queen Bee. Although the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee was at the legendary quality, it had an advantage against ordinary people in the Star Tower. However, the phase of the Radiance 100 sequence experts would not be of low quality. In fact, many Radiance 100 sequence members even had Fantasy Breed phase. Given Lin Yuan's current gold combat power, there was no hope of competing for the Radiance 100 sequence. However, now that Morbius had recovered to its complete form, the recovered spirit chi condensation could actually perfectly make up for Lin Yuan's current inability to upgrade the Fantasy Breed phase grades. With Morbius spirit chi condensation, Lin Yuan might even be able to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence competition this year. Baiduan read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 212. Lin Yuan's original plan was not to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence competition this year. His goal had always been to try for the Radiance 100 sequence next year. During the first year, they could only compete for the Radiance 100 sequence's top 10 spots, ranging from 90th to 100th. This was because the Radiance 100 sequence would only eliminate 10 people every year. Every year, only 10 individuals could fill the remaining spots in the Radiance 100 sequence. Now, an ambition suddenly arose in Lin Yuan's heart. He wanted to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence competition this year. They had to fight for one of the Radiance 100 sequence 90 to 100 spots. During this time, Lin Yuan had watched many Radiance 100 sequence members' Celestial Stairway duels in the Celestial Stairways video library. Although Lin Yuan could not say that he remembered every Radiance 100 sequence member's Fey clearly, he knew that the Radiance 100 sequence members had the same Fey. However, he still knew the general strength of the Radiance 100 sequence members from 90 to 100. As long as he had a Gold/Fantasy Breed Fey, he might not necessarily be able to enter the Radiance 100 sequence. But at least there was a possibility of competition. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly thought of a very important question. How long did Morbius spirit chi condensation take to condense a spirit chi crystal? The Radiance Federation's S tournament was about to begin. The S tournament started in January and ended in March. Meanwhile, the competition for the Radiance 100 sequence would last from March to April. Therefore, from January to April, the Radiance Federation's New Year period was basically a carnival for the Radiance Federation's residents. These 4 months were also known as the Big Season. Morbius estimated and said to Lin Yuan, "That's right. Under normal circumstances, the spirit chi condensation would require around 10 days to condense a spirit chi crystal. If there is a sufficient supply of energy ores in the spirit lock spatial zone, it would take around 7 days to condense a spirit chi crystal. After receiving Morbius' reply, Lin Yuan was even more determined to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence competition this year. Lin Yuan didn't lack energy ores, so he just had to purchase them from Zhou Jiasen's Star Web store. One spirit crystal every 7 days meant that it would take about 70 days to upgrade the Fantasy Breed Chimey or the Jasmine Lily to gold grade. It was now the end of November, and there were still over 3 months before the Radiance 100 sequence selection. During this time, he could upgrade Chimey from Silver Eye/Fantasy Eye to Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye. He could even use the extra spirit power crystals to strengthen the source-type life form, the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee. Fantasy breeds required a lot more spirit chi than normal phase required to evolve by 1 grade. Therefore, he was likely to increase the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee's strength to Gold X/Legend within 3 months. He chatted with Morbius in the spiritual spatial zone and counted his gains over the past few months. At that moment, Lin Yuan felt someone pat his shoulder and immediately returned to his senses. When he came back to his senses, he found Lu Jie looking at him with some concern. "Lin Yuan, why haven't you moved since the beginning of the auction? Did something happen?" Lin Yuan looked at Lu Jie's concerned gaze and shook his head. "I'm fine. Was there anything outstanding in the auction?" Lin Yuan had just learned that Morbius had woken up, so he kept his thoughts in the spirit lock spatial zone. He did not pay attention to what was being auctioned in this private auction. Lu Jie saw that Lin Yuan did not look uncomfortable, so he was relieved and said, "Some rare spiritual ingredients were auctioned just now. I just auctioned some rare spiritual ingredients, and the most precious one is the Platinum Dragon Beast's blood. An entire tube of platinum blood was sold for a high price of nearly 400,000 Radiance dollars." Lin Yuan nodded. Although the platinum dragon's blood was rare, there was still a small circulation. If one was sincere, they could still buy it. At that moment, Lin Yuan and Lu Jie suddenly heard many people exclaim. At that moment, one of the king-class experts in the 5-man team that organized the auction was holding a platinum Fey storage box. With a shake of his hand, he summoned the Fey in the Fey storage box. Many exclamations were due to this platinum snake species Fey that had suddenly been summoned. Lin Yuan used true data to check the snake species Fey that had been summoned from the Fey storage box. Fey name: Mist-Concealed Mamba, Fey species, Cobra/Black Mamba, Fey grade, Platinum, 10 out of 10, Fey type, Poison, Fey quality, Epic abilities: Frowny Face Mist Transformation. Transforms the body into mist, effectively dodging physical damage. However, energy damage will be multiplied by the damage dealt. Twin Venomous Fangs. After the venomous fangs bite the target, a second set of venomous fangs will quickly pop out from the upper jaw. The venom contained in the second set of venomous fangs has an additional paralyzing effect. Fatal Coil. The mist-transformed body can quickly strangle the target. During the strangle, the scales on the abdomen will rise, and the scales can release snake venom. Mamba Dense Fog. Spray a large amount of poisonous fog that can increase the concealment effect. At the same time, the target that comes into contact with the poisonous fog will have all kinds of illusions. Mamba Disintegration. Burn all the energy in the body and quickly secrete the venom, injecting all the venom in the body in one shot. Exclusive skill: Frowny Face Concentrated Venom. Stimulate the potential of the venom glands, doubling the venom produced by the venom glands. Lin Yuan could not help but click his tongue. It seemed that this 5-member king-class squad had really put in a lot of effort for this auction. Otherwise, they would not have put such a Fey up for auction no matter what. The king-class expert, who had summoned this platinum/epic mist-concealed mamba, said, "This snake species Fey is a mist-concealed mamba, platinum X/epic. A-rank spirit chi professionals can directly contract it. This snake species Fey is a mist-concealed mamba. It's platinum X/epic and can be contracted by A-rank spirit chi professionals." Since this king-class expert squad wanted to integrate the resources, it was natural that the higher the price of this mist-concealed mamba, the better. Since this king-class team wanted to consolidate their resources, the higher the price of the mist-hidden mamba, the better. Hence, the king-level powerhouse vividly explained the advantages of the platinum X/epic mist-hidden mamba. Lin Yuan could not help but feel a toothache. However, it was undeniable that this mist-concealed Mamba's abilities were not bad. Mist Transformation and Fatal Coil could be perfectly matched and become control-type abilities. While controlling, the twin venomous fangs would also cause toxic damage to the target. If combined with Mamba's disintegration, as long as this mist-concealed Mamba could bite the target and break the armor, it could even poison a Fae that was one grade higher than itself to death. Most snake species Faes relied on toxic attacks. Mamba snakes were the most venomous among the venomous snakes. This mist-concealed Mamba's exclusive skill was Concentrated Venom, which increased the mist-concealed Mamba's toxicity by another level. A poison-type Fae's strength had always been linked to the strength of the poison. This mist-concealed Mamba's exclusive skill allowed its strength to be higher than its grade. However, as long as an A-rank Spirit Chi professional could afford this mist-concealed Mamba, they would probably not choose to directly contract it. With this resource, they could completely nurture a Fae that was more suitable for themselves from a lower grade. Once Faes reached the gold grade, poison-type Faes would slowly become weaker. Gold and above Faes' defenses were getting stronger, especially some defense-type Faes, which could be completely independent in terms of defense. As for poison-type Faes, the toxicity in their bodies would also constantly increase with the increase of grade. However, in other aspects, they were much weaker than same-grade Faes. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 213. It was especially so after the Fae reached Platinum. The biggest problem faced by poison-type Faes was how to bite the target with their venomous fangs and pierce through the opponent's defense. Otherwise, if the venomous fangs could not pierce through the target's defense, the poison-type Fae would not have the slightest advantage against Faes of the same grade with other attributes. Poison-type Faes were extremely powerful in the early stages, but they would become slightly weaker after reaching gold. Of course, this situation was not absolute. Many precious poison-type Faes could still kill enemies of a higher grade even at Platinum. Some poison-type Faes had even comprehended the armor-piercing venomous fangs. However, this mist-concealed Mamba was obviously not one of them. However, the final transaction price surprised Lin Yuan. This Platinum X/Epic mist-concealed Mamba's final transaction price actually reached 9 million Radiance dollars. When you glanced at the Platinum X/Epic mist-concealed Mamba and said, "This mist-concealed Mamba shouldn't be worth 9 million Radiance dollars. This mist-concealed Mamba snake shouldn't be worth 9 million Radiance dollars. It's only suitable for attacking the Star Tower and not for actual combat in the wild." Wen Yu was from the Radiant Moon Palace. Therefore, when she saw this mist-concealed Mamba, not only was she not surprised at all, but she also felt that it was not very good. Lin Yuan also understood where the problem that Wen Yu mentioned was. This mist-concealed Mamba's fog transformation ability had a huge flaw. Faes that were evolving towards spiritual mutation were almost all adept at energy attacks. Most energy attacks were area of effect damage. Therefore, this mist-concealed Mamba could not be afraid of death during the Star Tower duel and attack unscrupulously. It could even use Mamba disintegration to take away the opponent. However, in actual combat in the wild as a poison-type Fae, the mist-concealed Mamba did not have any special advantages in other aspects. It was very likely that after fog transformation, the mist-concealed Mamba would be seriously injured before it could attack others under the intensive energy attacks. After auctioning off the Platinum X/Epic mist-concealed Mamba, the king-class powerhouse who organized the auction had a satisfied expression on his face. Obviously, the price of the Platinum X/Epic mist-hidden Mamba snake was beyond the king-level powerhouse's expectations. Next, a few more Faes were auctioned, and most of them were finished Faes. In terms of skills and exclusive skills, they were more or less imperfect. However, due to the rarer Fae species and the fact that it was an auction, everyone was competing against each other. Therefore, the price would be higher. Through the auction of some finished Faes, Lin Yuan had a deeper understanding of the Fae market and the price of Faes. The most direct observation was that Faes were truly too expensive. After auctioning off this item, the king-class king cleared his throat and said, Next is the fourth last item of this private auction. After speaking, the King-class expert took out another Fey storage box, but it was a bronze Fey storage box. However, since it was being auctioned at this time, it was obvious that the Feys in the bronze Fey storage box were rather rare. When the King-class expert released the Fey in the bronze Fey storage box, Lin Yuan's pupils subconsciously shrank. This bronze Fey was actually a young whale. Although it was only a young whale, its body length had already reached 3 meters. However, judging from the state of the calf, it should not have been long since it was born. When the young whale was summoned by the King stage powerhouse, Lin Yuan saw Zhao Xiaochun stand up from her seat and say, "That's right. Senior Shadow Bat King, I heard that one of your team members was seriously injured in the dimensional rift and is now unconscious. I have a few diamond deep blue soul awakening petals. I wonder if I can exchange them for your wave halberd killer whale?" Zhao Xiaochun was sitting not far from Lin Yuan. When she stood up, she even winked at Lin Yuan. King-class powerhouses all had their own titles, and Shadow Bat was the title of this King-class powerhouse. The Shadow Bat King said after hearing Zhao Xiaochun's words. "All right, let's do it." After speaking, he stored the bronze wave halberd killer whale back into the Fey storage box. Just as the Shadow Bat King was putting the bronze wave halberd killer whale back into the Fey storage box, Lin Yuan's eyes widened. He subconsciously used true data to check the wave killer whale's data. Fey name, Wave Orca, Spirit Species. Odontocetation genus, Fey grade. Bronze, 110. Fey type, Water. Fey quality, Flawless skills. Halberd strike. Quickly charge towards the target, using the halberd on your back to cut the target in half. Resonant whale sound. The high-frequency whale sound vibrates the water waves. While causing damage to the target, it also causes a certain degree of mental interference. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Surging Tide Elegy. Connects all water-type life forms within the water region. If other water-type life forms are willing, it can absorb all of the energy within the connected water-type life forms. When he saw the Wave Orca Killer Whale's exclusive skill, he was shocked. This bronze wave halberd killer whale was the main axis of a Fey combat system. The other water-type Feys could coordinate well with the Wave Orca killer whale in battle. The Wave Orca killer whale's Surging Tide Elegy was equivalent to integrating the power of all the water-type Feys present. This wave halberd killer whale was only at the bronze rank. If it was properly nurtured, it would undergo several metamorphoses. If this wave halberd killer whale could evolve into a fantasy breed, it would definitely be a terrifying existence. At that moment, Fong Duo spoke in a suppressed voice. "Zhao Xiaochun, back then Boss Long Tao told you to bid first. If you couldn't buy it, you could exchange it with the Diamond Stage Deep Blue Soul Awakening Petal. Why are you so high profile?" Zhao Xiaochun rolled her eyes at Fong Duo. "This is called preventing undue delay from bringing trouble. The sea is a forbidden area. Do you think it's that easy to get a newborn wave orca from the sea?" Fong Duo was rendered speechless by Zhao Xiaochun's retort. "In any case, I have completed this private auctions mission. Boss Fifth Fei will also be settled." Lin Yuan did not expect that Zhao Xiaochun had not bought this bronze wave halberd killer whale for him, but Long Tao. Long Tao's Sea King Chalk Azure Dragon was still fresh in Lin Yuan's memory. Long Tao was Sequence 3 of the Radiance 100, and his title of Overflowing Sea was because of his signature Fei, the Sea King Chalk Mosasaurus. Now that Long Tao had this wave halberd killer whale, his signature Fei would probably become this wave halberd killer whale after nurturing it. The wave killer whale would also become the core of Long Tao and even the Dragon Gate Guild Club's team. After the auction of the wave killer whale, it's finally time for tonight's event. They were also the 3 source-type items that Lin Yuan was most looking forward to. The Shadow Bat King took a box and slowly opened it. The third to last auction item, which is also the first source-type item tonight, is in this box. Lin Yuan saw that there was a transparent amber-colored crystal in the box. This transparent amber-colored crystal was in the shape of a button. Lin Yuan felt that this first source-type life form looked really strange. However, when he used true data to check this amber button-shaped source-type life form, his expression immediately became a little playful. The expression on his face immediately became a little playful. Baidu read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 214. When Lin Yuan used true data to check this source type item, he immediately decided to bid for it. No matter what, he had to bid for this source type item. This was because this amber button-shaped source type life form was exactly what he was currently dreaming of. If this amber button-shaped source type item was properly nurtured, it would not only be able to protect itself, but it would also be able to protect itself. At the same time, it could also control and attack. It was just that the contract conditions for this source type item were a little too harsh. It was so harsh that it would make almost everyone flinch. When a source type item was auctioned, a creation master would be asked to appraise it on the spot. It would be up to the creation master to judge the contract conditions needed for this source type item. Even an advanced creation master could not accurately judge the specific role and ability of a source type item. This was because source type items were simply too strange, and many of them were still unique so far. Apart from the source type items that the Radiance Federation had experimented and announced, people would know their abilities. As for the other source type items, they still needed to be discovered by the contractors themselves. The real reason why source type items were so sought after was that they would not be affected by spirit chi professionals' talents. Source type items themselves did not have any divisions. As long as they could meet the contract conditions, they could contract source type items. However, regardless of whether the source type item was strong or weak, the first condition to contract a source type item was to be able to meet those harsh requirements. Therefore, under the harsh conditions of this source type item, no one should be willing to do so. No one should be willing to make a move on this source type item. The Shadow Bat King had a smile on his face and was obviously in a good mood. The purpose of the King-class expert squad that the Shadow Bat King was in organized this auction was to integrate resources. This time, they took out almost all the spiritual materials and phase that were useless to the squad members for auction. The prices of these spiritual materials and phase had obviously met the Shadow Bat King's psychological expectations. In fact, these were not the reasons for the Shadow Bat King's smile. The reason why the Shadow Bat King was so happy was that the Wave Halberd Killer Whale had been exchanged for the Diamond Deep Blue Soul Awakening Petal. When the King-class expert squad that the Shadow Bat King was in had been exploring the class 3-dimensional rift, one of the King-class members had been seriously injured mentally and had been in a coma. He had not woken up yet. The injured King-class member was the team's healing-type spirit chi professional. The integration of resources this time was because 2 King-class members had comprehended a willpower rune in the class 3-dimensional rift and needed 2 high-quality bronze phase. On the other hand, it was to save the healing-type spirit chi professionals who had suffered mental damage. There were actually quite a number of phase that could heal mental injuries, just like when Lin Yuan had been unconscious. The contracted clear pond carp of the Dr. Anti Zhang had the ability to soothe the mind. However, a King-class expert's mental injury wasn't so easily healed. Even some King-class healing-type spirit chi professionals might not be able to do anything if they didn't have phase abilities or exclusive skills that were adept at healing injured minds. However, if he wanted to find a King-class healing-type spirit chi professional who was adept at healing mental injuries, the price he would have to pay was not small. As for the Diamond Rank Deep Blue Soul Awakening Petal, it could directly awaken the spirit. Life-saving items like the Diamond Soul Awakening Blue were probably even rarer than source-type items. Now that a Bronze Wave Halberd Killer Whale had been traded for the Diamond Soul Awakening Blue's petals, it was obviously an extremely good deal. It wasn't that the Bronze Wave Halberd Killer Whale's value was inferior to the Diamond Soul Awakening Blue's petals. In fact, a Bronze Wave Halberd Killer Whale was even rarer than this spiritual ingredient that could awaken a King-class expert's injured mind. This was because the ocean had become a forbidden area after the Spirit Chi awakening. The King-class expert squad that the Shadow Bat King was in had been able to capture this newborn Bronze Wave Halberd Killer Whale due to luck. While the Wave Halberd Killer Whale's mother was fighting with a group of sharks in the offshore waters, the King-class expert squad that the Shadow Bat King was in had seized the opportunity to capture this newborn Wave Halberd Killer Whale. Bartering was to exchange an item or fey that one didn't need for an item or fey that one needed. As long as the price was the same, both sides would profit no matter what the transaction was. At that moment, the middle-aged woman, who had been standing beside the Shadowbat King without saying a word, walked close to him and said, "We'll directly display all 3 source-type items and then auction them separately. Hurry up and end it so that we can go back and use the Soul Awakening Blues petals to awaken Shanshan." The Shadowbat King nodded and said to the people sitting in the VIP area waiting for the auction, "There are still 3 items left for tonight's auction. There are 3 auction items left in tonight's auction. They are all source-type items. I've decided to display the remaining 3 source-type items together and auction them separately." After saying that, the Shadowbat King took out 2 brocade boxes that weren't considered big and opened them. The moment the 3rd brocade box was opened, the mother of Bloodbath's strange but unusually pleasant voice rang in Lin Yuan's ears. "Lin Yuan, help me bid for the source-type item in the 3rd box, and I'll owe you a favor." Lin Yuan could hear a kind of urgency and fanaticism in the mother of Bloodbath's voice. However, there was an unusually solemn tone in its words. The urgency and fanaticism were directed at the blood-red, fist-sized egg-shaped object in the 3rd brocade box. It was solemn because of its promise to Lin Yuan. As Lin Yuan's path protector, the mother of Bloodbath would only protect his safety at critical moments. It was not obliged to complete any request that Lin Yuan made. Now that the mother of Bloodbath was talking about a favor, it proved that Lin Yuan could ask the mother of Bloodbath once. As a suzerain/myth-eye expert, the mother of Bloodbath owed him a favor. Such a benefit could not be said to be small. Lin Yuan used true data to check this blood-red, egg-shaped source-type item and found that it was really a source-type life-form egg. There was majestic blood energy in the egg, and in the center of the eggshell was a young life-form whose shape could not yet be seen. This young life-form was slowly absorbing the blood energy in the egg. Under true data, Lin Yuan found that this source-type life-form's name was Deep Sea Blood Mosquito. Lin Yuan was a little curious. What did the mother of Bloodbath want such a source-type life-form for? Fays could not contract source-type life-forms like humans. Fays could only rely on themselves. The mother of Bloodbath's gaze was now focused on the blood-red, egg-shaped source-type life-form in the 3rd brocade box. Perhaps sensing Lin Yuan's puzzled gaze, the mother of Bloodbath whispered in his ear, "I've been stuck at the peak of Myth-Eye for a long time. I've been stuck at the peak of Myth-Eye for a long time. This source-type item has majestic blood energy. If I can completely refine and absorb this blood energy, I'll have a trump card to break through to Myth 2. If I advance to Myth 2, I'll be able to transform into a human." Baidu read the latest chapter in the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 215. Upon hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan could not help but be a little stunned. Others auctioned source-type life-forms for contracts, but the mother of Bloodbath obtained source-type life-forms to eat. However, the mother of Bloodbath's purpose of eating source-type life-forms was the same as humans' purpose of contracting source-type life-forms. It was to become stronger. The law of survival for Fays was survival of the fittest, let alone the mother of Bloodbath. From the moment he was born, he had never contracted a spirit chi professional and had relied on himself to step into suzerain/myth-eye. The mother of Bloodbath had experienced countless killings since it was young, so it was only natural for it to consume source-type life-forms to increase its strength. After the Shadowbat King took out the 3 source-type items, he pointed at the middle-aged woman who had just spoken. "Let the Lightning Sparrow King introduce the contract conditions of these 3 source-type items." The middle-aged woman took over the Shadowbat King's work and said, "Apart from being a combat-class spirit chi professional, this king is also a pinnacle class 3 creation master. Therefore, let me explain the contract conditions for these 3 source-type items." Lin Yuan was surprised to find that this middle-aged female king-class expert, who was known as the Lightning Sparrow King, was actually quite popular. It was obvious that apart from the fact that the Lightning Sparrow King was a king-class expert, the more important reason was that she was a pinnacle class 3 creation master. According to the Radiance Federation's identity and status, A King-class expert's status was actually equivalent to a Class 3 Creation Master's. However, a Pinnacle Class 3 Creation Master's connections and influence had already faintly surpassed a Pinnacle King-class expert. Class 4 Creation Masters were existences that King-class experts had to look up to. Any Class 4 Creation Master would be someone that a King-class expert would have to curry favor with. The Lightning Sparrow King said as she picked up the source type item. This source type item is an elemental source type item. Following the Lightning Sparrow King's words, the crowd below immediately became noisy. There were many types of source type items, but the most precious ones were elemental source type items. If elemental source type items were nurtured properly, they would often be extremely powerful. At the same time, elemental source type items were the most comprehensive. They combined attack, control, and defense into one. Many people's eyes lit up when they saw the amber button-shaped source type item. But then, the Lightning Sparrow King changed the topic. She did not introduce how strong the source type item was. Instead, she said, "Don't worry. The contract conditions for this amber button-shaped source type life form are very harsh. It requires 2 willpower runes to contract it, and it's best if the 2 willpower runes are compatible. After the contract, when this source type life form reaches legend, it will automatically be promoted to a fantasy breed." The Lightning Sparrow King's face twitched. God knew how happy the Lightning Sparrow King's King-class expert squad had been after obtaining this elemental source type item. But he was speechless when he learned the contract conditions of the amber button-shaped source type item. Lin Yuan was waiting for the Lightning Sparrow King to say this. However, the contract conditions mentioned by the Lightning Sparrow King were much easier than the contract conditions for the amber button-shaped source-type life form and were not comprehensive enough. Apart from consuming 2 willpower runes, the contract condition for this amber button-shaped source-type life form was to consume 2 willpower runes. The exclusive skill would only appear after this source-type item was upgraded to a fantasy breed. This source-type life form was special in that it had no abilities. Instead, it would produce 3 exclusive skills when it became a fantasy breed. One of the exclusive skills was randomly generated like other phase, while the other 2 were related to the 2 willpower runes used during the contract. Each willpower rune corresponded to an exclusive skill. Therefore, if this elemental source-type life form could not be upgraded to legend and become a fantasy breed, it would be like wasting 2 willpower runes. It would be equivalent to wasting 2 willpower runes in exchange for a useless amber button-shaped crystal. Of course, Lin Yuan would not expose all this. Just the fact that it required 2 willpower runes was enough to prevent anyone from having any thoughts of contracting this elemental amber crystal button-shaped source-type item. As expected, the expressions on the faces of those who had been eager to try were as disgusting as if they had eaten cat litter that had not been changed for 3 years. Using only 1 willpower rune was already unacceptable. With the willpower rune, one could contract a bronze high-quality fae and strive to become a fantasy breed before gold. This was the most accurate way to use the willpower rune. In the eyes of most people, consuming 2 willpower runes to contract a source-type life form might be something that only fools with unclear minds would choose to buy. The Lightning Sparrow King did not care about the reactions of the bidders below. Her team had taken out 3 source-type life forms for auction because the contract conditions for these 3 source-type life forms were extremely harsh. At the same time, they were of no use to her team members. If she had obtained a source-type life form that was easy to contract and nurture, her King-class team would definitely not have taken it out for auction. The Lightning Sparrow King continued to introduce the source-type life form in the second brocade box. Many of you should have heard of this source-type life form. It's an insect egg, and the source-type life form in the insect egg is the hurricane owlet moth. There is information on the hurricane owlet moth on the Radiance Federation's star web. The hurricane owlet moth can use the tornado created by its wings to control the target. At the same time, the wind blades in the tornado have a strong penetrating effect and can cut through heavy armor. The hurricane owlet moth's contract conditions are very simple. As long as you can contract a breeze hibiscus, you can contract a source-type life form like the hurricane owlet moth. The Lightning Sparrow King was not stingy with her words. It was different from when she introduced the source-type item. When introducing the hurricane owlet moth, the lightning sparrow king mentioned all the advantages that could be brought out without missing a single detail. The people waiting for the auction immediately became interested when they heard that it was a hurricane owlet moth. Obviously, many people knew about the hurricane owlet moth. When the lightning sparrow king had introduced the hurricane owlet moth, Lin Yuan had already felt a chill down his spine. Lin Yuan found that Lu Jie's fists were clenched tightly, and his lips were pursed together. His eyes were fixed on the hurricane owlet moth egg in the brocade box. Lin Yuan immediately knew that Lu Jie was interested in the hurricane owlet moth, so he said, "That's right. Brother Lu, this hurricane owlet moth is quite suitable for your insect queen's platinum skill." Lu Jie's insect queen was a platinum/fantasy breed source-type life form, so it should have 5 skills. However, Lu Jie's platinum insect queen only had 4 skills. Lu Jie had always kept the slot for the platinum skill that relied on devouring insects to replicate the template. This hurricane owlet moth was very compatible with Lu Jie's platinum/fantasy breed insect queen's combat style. Moreover, the hurricane owlet moth was also a life form with an extremely simple template. Producing one would not consume much energy from the insect queen. Lu Jie smiled bitterly when he heard Lin Yuan's words. Lu Jie had long known about the hurricane owlet moth when his insect queen was still at silver. When Lu Jie saw the detailed introduction of the source-type life form, the hurricane owlet moth, on StarWeb, he felt that the hurricane owlet moth was very compatible with his insect queen. However, source-type life forms were rare, and many of them were unique. They were not like fays that could be searched. When Lu Jie's insect queen had reached platinum, he had chosen an insect species fay and realized that there was really no suitable choice. Either the fay template that was suitable for the ability was too complicated, or the fay's ability with a simple template was not suitable. What Lu Jie's insect queen lacked the most was an insect species template that could be used to control it. Now that the source-type life form, the hurricane owlet moth, had unexpectedly appeared, the more Lu Jie thought about it, the more he felt that the hurricane owlet moth was very compatible with his insect queen. He wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 216. But for Lu Jie, the biggest problem he faced was his lack of money. Lu Jie lent all the money to Bai Hao before the insect queen was injured. Bai Hao had returned the money to Lu Jie not long ago, but 10 million radiance dollars obviously could not buy a source-type life form like the hurricane owlet moth. Although Lu Jie did not say anything, Lin Yuan understood his desire for the source-type hurricane owlet moth from his eyes. Lin Yuan could not help but complain in his heart. It was the right decision to come to this private auction. He needed all 3 source-type life forms. 1 for himself, 1 for Lu Jie, and 1 for the mother of Bloodbath. The lightning sparrow king did not stop and continued to introduce the 3rd source-type item. The lightning sparrow king said as she held the blood-red egg-shaped source-type item in the 3rd brocade box. This should be the first time this source-type item has appeared. I don't know its specific function. However, the conditions are very simple. That is, you have to spend a large amount of mental energy to carry out the contract. After the contract is successful, you have to wait for the creature inside the egg to finish absorbing the large amount of blood energy in the egg. Only when the creature inside the egg is strong enough to break the eggshell will it break out. If you want to speed up the incubation of the source-type life form in this egg, you can feed it a lot of your own blood. An auctioneer who was interested in the life form within the blood-red egg stood up and asked, "Lightning Sparrow King, how long will it take for the source-type creature to hatch? How much spiritual energy will it consume?" The Lightning Sparrow King didn't hide anything. The hardness of this eggshell is able to withstand an all-out attack from a diamond fay. Therefore, if the life form inside the egg wants to hatch, it must be able to break the eggshell first. In terms of spiritual energy, it is roughly the spiritual energy required to form a contract with 3 platinum fays. If I feed a large amount of my own blood, I reckon it should be enough for 10 years. The Lightning Sparrow King's words made Zhao Xiaochun, who was sitting there, laugh. Lin Yuan didn't know what to say. If this source-type life form was fed with a large amount of its own blood for 10 years, even a person with a strong physique would die within a year. A normal person wouldn't even be able to last a month. Furthermore, the spiritual energy required for 3 platinum phase would require at least an A-rank spirit chi professional to achieve it. However, if one could really become an A-rank spirit chi professional, who would be willing to expend so much spiritual energy to contract an egg that would only hatch after more than a decade? Even if the Fae hatched from the egg could reach diamond at the very least, the gains would not make up for the losses. The limit of phase that A-rank spirit chi professionals could withstand was pinnacle diamond. Even if an A-rank expert did not have a fantasy breed, if he kept nurturing a Fae, it would not be a big problem to nurture it to diamond. Therefore, the source-type life form inside the blood-red eggshell had become an incomparably useless existence. However, with true data, if the source-type Nether River blood mosquito could be hatched, it would not be as simple as diamond. However, it would take at least 15 years for it to hatch, even if it was watered with a large amount of blood every day. Without the nourishment of fresh blood, it might not even hatch in 100 years. The blood energy within the egg was simply too vast. Who knew how long it would take for the dark sea blood mosquito larvae to absorb it all by themselves? Although this blood-red eggshell could withstand a diamond full-force attack, the mother of bloodbath was a suzerain/myth-eye expert. Breaking this blood-red eggshell was really not a difficult task. After the Lightning Sparrow King introduced the 3 source-type items, the bidding could start. However, most people's gazes were on the Hurricane Owlet Moth in the second box. The Lightning Sparrow King said directly, "Then let's auction this Hurricane Owlet Moth first." Lin Yuan did not make a move immediately. The price of the Hurricane Owlet Moth soared all the way to 30 million radiance dollars before slowing down. At this moment, a young man with a ponytail stood up and said, "Senior Lightning Sparrow King, I wonder if I can use a bronze/epic gold devouring rat to exchange for this source-type life form, Hurricane Owlet Moth?" As soon as the young man with a head full of dreadlocks spoke, the scene quieted down. Bronze/epic phase were currently the highest quality bronze phase that appeared in the Radiance Federation. Any bronze/epic Fae had the potential to reach legend from gold. Those with great potential could even reach the legend rank at the silver rank. Therefore, any bronze/epic Fae was equivalent to a great fortuitous opportunity. Even a king-class expert would be tempted after hearing about a bronze/epic Fae. When Lin Yuan saw the hesitation on the Lightning Sparrow King's face, he knew that it was time for him to make a move. If he still didn't make a move and the Lightning Sparrow King agreed, then it would be too late for him to speak. Lin Yuan stood up and said, "That's right. Senior Lightning Sparrow King, I also have a bronze/epic Fae and would like to use it to participate in the auction." The Lightning Sparrow King immediately asked, "Little friend, what kind of bronze/epic Fae are you talking about?" Lin Yuan didn't know how to answer the Lightning Sparrow King's question. Lin Yuan couldn't possibly say that he had all the species that she wanted. Even if she couldn't think of them, he would have them too. If he said that, he would undoubtedly sound like a troublemaker. The youth with the dreadlocks frowned when he saw Lin Yuan bidding against him. "If you have a bronze/epic Fae, summon it. Let's see whose bronze/epic Fae can enter the Lightning Sparrow King's eyes." After saying that, the youth with the dreadlocks summoned a golden rat from the diamond Fae storage box on his chest. He walked forward and handed the golden rat to the Lightning Sparrow King before saying, "Senior, please check it. Senior, please check it. If you plan to exchange with me, I can add another 10 million radiance dollars." The youth with the dreadlocks spoke very sincerely, and his eyes were filled with determination. The Lightning Sparrow King took the golden rat and nodded in amazement. It really is a bronze/epic gold devouring rat. However, although the Lightning Sparrow King's tone was filled with amazement, there wasn't any joy on her face. It was obvious that this bronze/epic gold devouring rat didn't match the 2 king-class experts who had comprehended the willpower rune in the Lightning Sparrow King's king-class expert squad. Bronze/epic source-type life forms were very rare, so very few people could perfectly match the willpower rune with the bronze/epic source-type life form. People who comprehended the willpower rune would choose a bronze/epic Fae. The first choice would naturally be a Fae that matched the willpower rune that they had comprehended within their aptitude. This situation was no different from winning the lottery. The secondary choice would be a Fae that matched their aptitude, and there was no need to consider whether the willpower rune would match. Many people who had awakened the willpower rune would choose a bronze/epic Fae that matched their aptitude. It was already extremely difficult for most people who had awakened the willpower rune to find a bronze/epic Fae that matched their aptitude, and they couldn't find it even after painstakingly searching for it. The youth with the dreadlocks' actions were equivalent to putting Lin Yuan on fire. If Lin Yuan couldn't take out a bronze/epic Fae, it would be tantamount to causing trouble. Many people's eyes were gathered on him, including the Lightning Sparrow King and the Shadow Bat King. Wen Yu felt the youth with the dreadlocks looking at Lin Yuan with an unfriendly gaze. Wen Yu's expression changed, and the aura of the Radiant Moon Palace's spirit attendant suddenly rose. This kind of aura came from one's level and vision, not from one's strength. Lin Yuan could feel the change in Wen Yu's temperament. He shook his head at Wen Yu and spoke to the Lightning Sparrow King in a clear voice. Senior Lightning Sparrow King, I won't add radiance dollars, but you can choose the species of the bronze/epic phase that I will provide. Baidu took a look at the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House and read it for free. Chapter 217. When the Lightning Sparrow King heard Lin Yuan's words, her pupils suddenly contracted, and she was stunned for a moment before replying. Is that true? Lin Yuan revealed a bright smile and replied calmly. I'm here to bid for the source-type item, so I naturally won't deceive you. If I did, I wouldn't be able to take the source-type item in your hands. Zhao Xiaochun excitedly slapped Fang Duoduo's thigh repeatedly as she spoke. Fuck. This little handsome guy is simply too handsome. Fang Duoduo, after seeing this little handsome guy, I'm a little hungry. I want to eat pig trotters stewed with fermented bean curd. Zhao Xiaochun was patting Fang Duoduo's thigh when she suddenly felt that something was wrong. Fang Duoduo immediately bent over like a prawn and said with a flushed face, Zhao Xiaochun, you really are ruthless. If you're love-struck, then go slap your own thigh. Why did you have to wipe out the entire Fang clan? Zhao Xiaochun looked at Fang Duoduo apologetically and said awkwardly, Meow. Fang Duoduo rolled his eyes and said with tears in his eyes, Woof. When the youth with the dreadlocks heard Lin Yuan's words, his face darkened. Words are no proof. You have to prove what you said. There are so many people here watching. I don't think my friend is making fun of everyone here and deliberately causing trouble, right? As soon as the young man with the dreadlocks finished speaking, Lu Jie's expression turned solemn as he prepared to stand up. Lin Yuan placed his hand on Lu Jie's shoulder and patted him to let him continue sitting in his seat. Lu Jie had an indescribable feeling in his heart. As early as when Lin Yuan had stood up to bid for this source-type hurricane owlet moth, Lu Jie had felt an indescribable feeling in his heart. Lu Jie suddenly felt a surge of warmth in his heart. Lu Jie's heart was abnormally heavy when he saw the hurricane owlet moth being auctioned. The hurricane owlet moth was obviously very suitable for his insect queen, but his current savings were not enough to purchase this source-type life-form hurricane owlet moth. The moment Lin Yuan stood up to bid for the hurricane owlet moth, Lu Jie thought of what Lin Yuan had just said. This hurricane owlet moth is quite suitable for your insect queen's platinum skill. When Lin Yuan said this, he must have made up his mind to help him bid for this source-type hurricane owlet moth. Lu Jie had long regarded Lin Yuan as his faith. However, Lin Yuan's actions still moved Lu Jie. Lu Jie knew that retainer knights were essentially servants. However, Lin Yuan had never treated her as a servant. This feeling of being saved from danger and being treated with sincerity made Lu Jie feel a myriad of emotions welling up in his heart. He didn't know what to say. Thank you is too easy to say, it seems empty. Therefore, the only thing he could do was to protect the young man before him with all his might. Faith was not heavy, because faith had always been a kind of sustenance. Now, at some point in time, another thing called, till death comes had been born in this trust. Lin Yuan looked at the expression on the youth's face and could not help but raise his eyebrows. Lin Yuan could see that the youth with the dreadlocks was very eager for the source-type life form, the hurricane owlet moth. Moreover, the value of the bronze/epic gold-devouring rats was comparable to the source-type life form, the hurricane owlet moth. The youth with the dreadlocks had added another 10 million radiance dollars, which was enough to show his sincerity. However, Lin Yuan would not decline modestly, as this was how the auction worked. The item would belong to whoever offered the highest price. Moreover, this hurricane owlet moth was of great use to him. Lu Jie's insect queen was already a platinum/fantasy breed source-type life form. However, its platinum abilities were still empty. Lu Jie's insect queen's 4 abilities could be considered to form a system. It had melee attack, long-range attack, and defense. However, if the insect queen could engrave the hurricane owlet moth's genetic model and become Lu Jie's platinum ability, it would join the insect queen's combat system. It would have melee attack, long-range attack, and a control ability in addition to the defense ability. This would allow Lu Jie's insect queen's combat system to have a qualitative leap. When the lightning sparrow king heard the youth with the dreadlocks' words, she could not help but look a little displeased. Since Lin Yuan stood up, the lightning sparrow king had been carefully observing him. The youth's temperament made the lightning sparrow king admire him very much. This indifferent temperament made the lightning sparrow king feel that the youth in front of her was somewhat unfathomable. However, when the lightning sparrow king saw the material of Lin Yuan's black coat, she knew that this youth would not deceive her. As a Class 3 creation master, the lightning sparrow king's vision wasn't something that ordinary people could compare to. The lightning sparrow king immediately saw that the feather embroidery on the youth's coat was made of the silk thread that the platinum dark death creepy spider spat out. The platinum dark death creepy spider normally wouldn't spit silk and would only spit out silk thread to protect itself when it was molting. It showed how rare the silk thread of the platinum dark death creepy spider was. Moreover, the lightning sparrow king could recognize the person sitting beside this youth. It was Lu Jie. As a member of the Radiance 100 sequence, the Radiance Federation's experts would naturally recognize Lu Jie. Moreover, Lu Jie's heroic deeds had shaken the Radiance Federation for a period of time. Young friend, if I say the phase type, how long will it take for me to obtain the corresponding bronze/epic phase? Lin Yuan replied softly. Senior Lightning Sparrow King, if you say the phase type, the bronze/epic phase will be delivered to you before this time tomorrow. The Lightning Sparrow King heard and was about to speak. However, before the Lightning Sparrow King could speak, the youth with the dreadlocks spoke first. Lord Lightning Sparrow King, apart from this bronze/epic gold-devouring rat, I'm willing to add another 5 million radiance dollars on top of the 10 million radiance dollars to exchange for the source-type hurricane owlet moth. The Lightning Sparrow King ignored the youth with the dreadlocks. To a king-class expert, 5 million radiance dollars wasn't considered an important wealth. What was truly important was the bronze/epic phase that was compatible with their innate affinity. It wasn't the Lightning Sparrow King who had comprehended the willpower rune. However, a king-class team's members were originally close partners. Furthermore, the stronger the members of the team, the more help and less danger they would face when exploring in the wilderness or dimensional rifts. The youth with the dreadlocks looked at the Lightning Sparrow King's expression and knew that if that youth in black didn't deliberately cause trouble, this source-type hurricane owlet moth was destined to have no fate with him. The Lightning Sparrow King and the Shadow Bat King exchanged glances before speaking. Young friend, there are power of fence-type winged insect species phase and defense-type deer species phase. If any of these two phase can reach bronze/epic, then this hurricane owlet moth will be yours. After speaking, the Lightning Sparrow King paused for a moment and continued speaking. However, you said that I can only get the bronze/epic phase to exchange for the hurricane owlet moth tomorrow, so I have to have something as collateral. Many people's eyes were gathered on Lin Yuan. They wanted to see what exactly Lin Yuan would take out as collateral for the hurricane owlet moth. Since it was collateral, even if the collateral's price was slightly lower than the hurricane owlet moth, it probably wouldn't be much lower than the hurricane owlet moth. Everyone present really wanted to see what this youth could take out that could compete with the value of the hurricane owlet moth. Lin Yuan didn't expect that one of the two bronze/epic fays in his diamond fay storage box would actually be the power of fence-type winged insect species fay that the lightning sparrow king mentioned. What a coincidence! However, the bronze/epic flame vein dragonfly in Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone had awakened the bloodline of the prehistoric Silurian overlord, the huge vein dragonfly, under the extremely pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. A bronze/legend fay like the flame veined dragonfly in exchange for a source-type hurricane owlet moth was too much of a loss for Lin Yuan. However, he still waved his hand and summoned the bronze/epic flame veined dragonfly, which had awakened the bloodline of the prehistoric Silurian overlord, the huge veined dragonfly. After summoning the bronze/epic flame veined dragonfly, he extended a hand. The bronze/epic flame veined dragonfly's 2-meter-long body could no longer land on Lin Yuan's finger. It could only flap its wings and fly around his palm. Lin Yuan said as he looked at the bronze/epic flame veined dragonfly. I happen to have one of the power of fence-type winged insect species fays that Senior Lightning Sparrow King mentioned. However, Senior should know that source-type hurricane owlet moth can't be exchanged for this bronze/epic flame veined dragonfly that has awakened the bloodline of the prehistoric Silurian overlord, the giant veined dragonfly. Baidu read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 218. When Lin Yuan summoned the flame-veined dragonfly, the Lightning Sparrow King and the Shadow Bat King's eyes were firmly attracted to it. The flame-veined dragonfly's fiery red body was covered with green patterns, and it flapped its wings and created phantoms. Although the flame-veined dragonfly that Lin Yuan summoned was only bronze, if one carefully sensed it, one would be able to sense the violent fire and wind energy in the flame-veined dragonfly's body. This violent energy originated from the bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly awakening the bloodline of the prehistoric Silurian overlord, the huge veined dragonfly. Such a bloodline awakening was equivalent to a fish-type fey awakening the thin dragon species bloodline in its body. The sublimation of the genetic model was a crucial transformation in the evolution of lifeforms. This flame-veined dragonfly had undergone such a transformation. The flame-veined dragonfly and the gold-devouring rats were both bronze/epic fays. However, in comparison, the flame-veined dragonfly looked much stronger than the gold-devouring rats. Of course, this was not the reason why the Lightning Sparrow King and the Shadow Bat King valued this flame-veined dragonfly so much. The reason the Lightning Sparrow King and the Shadow Bat King were so interested in this bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly was that its ability to use wind and fire was compatible with the willpower rune comprehended by the King-class expert in their team, who had an affinity with winged insects and insect species fays. Even if a King-class expert comprehended a willpower rune and searched for a bronze/epic fay, they would only dare to hope to find a bronze/epic fay that was compatible with their talent. It was impossible to hope for a bronze/epic fay to be compatible with the willpower rune comprehended by the King-class expert in the team. But now, there was actually a bronze/epic fay that was not only compatible with the King-class expert's talent, but also had a compatible willpower rune. Moreover, this fay that matched their team members' talent and willpower rune had even awakened such a powerful bloodline. The youth with the dreadlocks had been very enthusiastic about the source-type life form, the hurricane owlet moth. In that case, the Lightning Sparrow King and Shadow Bat King were very enthusiastic about the bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly that Lin Yuan had summoned. In fact, they were even more enthusiastic. Despite being a Pinnacle Class 3 creation master and a King Class expert, the Lightning Sparrow King couldn't help but feel nervous. As a Pinnacle Class 3 creation master, the Lightning Sparrow King could see how outstanding the flame-veined dragonfly was. This made the Lightning Sparrow King want to swap this bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly for her teammates. When the other participants saw the bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly that Lin Yuan had summoned, they couldn't help but be shocked. One of them looked at the flame-veined dragonfly with an expression of extreme desire. However, when he saw that the Lightning Sparrow King and the Shadow Bat King were just like him, he could only force a smile and suppress his thoughts. If this wasn't the Lightning Sparrow King and the Shadow Bat King's territory, this person would probably stand up and fight with Lin Yuan no matter what. He wanted to see if he could buy this bronze/epic flame vein dragonfly that had awakened the bloodline of the Silurian overlord, the giant vein dragonfly, at a high price. The Lightning Sparrow King said after some consideration, "Young friend, I won't hide it from you. Your flame vein dragonfly is very compatible with the willpower rune comprehended by my team member who has an affinity with winged insect species phase. I wonder if we can use this source-type hurricane owlet moth as well as a satisfactory reward to exchange for this bronze/epic flame vein dragonfly?" The Lightning Sparrow King had already made up her mind. As long as he could keep the deep blue soul awakening petal. No matter what the young man in front of him wanted, as long as he could afford it and the price was not too ridiculous, he would agree to it. Lin Yuan didn't stand on ceremony. He knew very well how outstanding and rare this bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly was. Moreover, a trade was about each taking what they needed, and at the same time, it was also a kind of game. He was not a philanthropist. Just because it was easy for him to enhance phase, he would casually exchange bronze/epic phase at a low price. For example, the Lightning Sparrow King still needed him to be a guarantor during the transaction. Lin Yuan estimated the value of the bronze/epic flame vein dragonfly and said in a clear voice, "Senior Lightning Sparrow King, the other two source-type items shouldn't be easy to sell. Whether it consumes 2 willpower runes or a large amount of mental strength, as well as continuously watering them with blood for 10 years, ordinary people can't bear it. I wonder if my flame-veined dragonfly, which has awakened the bloodline of the Silurian overlord, the huge vein dragonfly, can be exchanged for Senior Lightning Sparrow King's 3 source-type items?" Lin Yuan emphasized the flame-veined dragonfly's awakened bloodline. In fact, there was no need for Lin Yuan to mention it. Be it the Pinnacle Class 3 Creation Master Lightning Sparrow King or the Spirit Chi professionals present who had some understanding of the flame-veined dragonflies, they all understood. If not for the fact that this flame-veined dragonfly had awakened the bloodline of the Silurian hegemon, the giant veined dragonfly. At most, it would only grow to about 30 centimeters. It definitely wouldn't grow to its current size of 2 meters. When the Lightning Sparrow King heard Lin Yuan's request, she couldn't help but hesitate and ponder. Although the other 2 source-type items had very harsh contract conditions, they were still 2 source-type items. At the same time, these 2 source-type items had appeared for the first time, and they had never been heard of before. If these 2 source-type items plus the source-type life form, the hurricane owlet moth, their actual value would be more expensive than this bronze/epic flame vein dragonfly. Even if this bronze/epic flame vein dragonfly had awakened the bloodline of the Silurian hegemon, the giant vein dragonfly, its value was still much lower than these 3 source-type items. While the Lightning Sparrow King was pondering, Lin Yuan had a relaxed expression. A transaction was originally a game, and it was no different from a chess game. The initiative was now in Lin Yuan's hands. What Lin Yuan wanted to gamble on was whether the Lightning Sparrow King would agree to the price he offered. If she agreed, he would have an advantage, and all 3 source-type items he needed would belong to him. If the Lightning Sparrow King didn't agree, it wouldn't be a big problem for Lin Yuan. He just needed to increase his bargaining chips. Since the Lightning Sparrow King had already made up her mind and needed to weigh it, Lin Yuan knew that this proved that his request was within the acceptable range. While the Lightning Sparrow King was pondering, the youth with the dreadlocks' ugly expression turned into complete despair. The youth with the dreadlocks knew that this source-type life form, the hurricane owlet moth, was destined to have no fate with him. The Lightning Sparrow King wasn't considering the ownership of the hurricane owlet moth. Instead, she was considering whether the other 2 source-type items could be used as bargaining chips to exchange for this bronze/epic flame vein dragonfly that had awakened the bloodline of the giant vein dragonfly. The youth with the dreadlocks looked at Lin Yuan with some anger. Just as the youth with the dreadlocks was looking at Lin Yuan angrily, he suddenly felt as though a new door had opened in his mind. Wasn't it because he was a support-type Spirit Chi professional that he had put in so much effort to purchase the hurricane owlet moth? Due to his affinity with support-type plant phase, he had always lacked effective attacking means. Furthermore, among the support-type plant phase that he had contracted, there happened to be the breeze hibiscus, the source-type life form, the hurricane owlet moth's prerequisite. In fact, among the support-type plant phase, there were also phase with offensive means. It was just that such a support-type plant phase with offensive means was too rare. Just now, this black-clothed youth had given the Lightning Sparrow King a condition that she could choose any bronze/epic phase. Then why did he have to hold on to this hurricane owlet moth? He might as well look for this black-clothed youth and see if he had a bronze/epic support-type plant phase with offensive ability that could be of help to him. How good would that be? The youth with the dreadlocks expression changed from despair to anticipation. He couldn't help but give himself a thumbs up in his heart. I, Gaofeng, am really a clever little devil. Baidu immediately read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 219. Apart from the youth with the dreadlocks, everyone else looked at Lin Yuan with contemplation in their eyes. Anyone who was able to participate in this private auction organized by a king-class experts team definitely had a high status. However, when they looked at this black-robed youth, they felt that this black-robed youth was extremely unfamiliar. They had never heard of him before. Apart from his temperament, everyone was more concerned about the identity of this black-clothed youth. What kind of foundation could allow this black-clothed youth to say that he could choose any type of bronze/epic phase? This black-clothed youth could casually take out and awaken the bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly bloodline of the Silurian overlord, the huge veined dragonfly. This was a kind of foundation. Looking at the young man's calm expression, it was obvious that the young man did not think much of this bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly that had awakened the Silurian overlord bloodline of the huge veined dragonfly. The Lightning Sparrow King was silent for a while and then looked at the Shadow Bat King. The Lightning Sparrow King said after seeing the Shadow Bat King nod his head firmly after a moment of hesitation. Little friend, I agree to the deal. These 3 source-type items are yours. Lin Yuan smiled and nodded. Senior Lightning Sparrow King, this bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly is yours. Lin Yuan touched the bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly's wings as a farewell to this dragonfly that he had nurtured. Lin Yuan had wanted to find a good home for the flame-veined dragonflies. The Lightning Sparrow King was a member of the King-class team, and he was the best choice. As long as the flame-veined dragonfly advanced from epic to legend, it would immediately have a willpower rune and could evolve into a fantasy breed. It was very rare for Fays to obtain a willpower rune to evolve into a fantasy breed after forming a contract with a human. After bidding farewell to the bronze/epic flame-veined dragonfly, he stored it in a bronze Fey storage box and handed it to Wenyu. Wenyu took the Fey storage box that contained the bronze/epic flame-veined dragonflies and handed it to the Lightning Sparrow King. At the same time, she took the 3 brocade boxes containing the source-type items from the Lightning Sparrow King's hands and handed them to Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan casually handed the source-type hurricane owlet moth to Lu Jie. Brother Lu, now your Insect Queen's platinum skill can be obtained. Lu Jie took the hurricane owlet moth and revealed an honest smile. Lu Jie didn't say thank you. He just clenched his fist. With the hurricane owlet moth, the platinum/fantasy eye Insect Queen's combat system would be truly perfected. Lu Jie's platinum/fantasy eye Insect Queen would also reach its peak. Lu Jie didn't know what to say. It was just to become stronger in this life and then protect this young man in front of him. This was a path that he would walk until the end. When you saw everything. She looked at Lin Yuan and then at Lu Jie before revealing a brilliant smile. When you had never imagined such a life, but this kind of life was really free and comfortable. He had faith and emotion. In fact, the real bridge between people was their feelings for each other. Be it family, love, or friendship, they all ended up the same way. It was just an emotion, a responsibility. When you had long regarded this manor as a small home, this feeling was like being able to stand in the wind and rain at any time. This feeling of home was really good. At this point, the private auction held by this king-class squad was completely over. Zhao Xiaochun originally wanted to find Lin Yuan and Lu Jie for a big meal with Fong Duo. On one hand, Lu Jie had returned. As a fellow Radiance 100 seedling, she wanted to welcome him. On the other hand, both of them wanted to get to know Lin Yuan and become friends. However, after Fang Duo received a call, his expression immediately changed. Fang Duo said a few words to Zhao Xiaochun, and she immediately changed from a mischievous expression to a serious one. It was as though she had become a completely different person. Zhao Xiaochun excused herself to Lin Yuan and Lu Jie and hurriedly left with Fang Duo. Lin Yuan, Lu Jie, and when you were not in a hurry to go home. Instead, they were going to the night market next to the Rare Life Form Pavilion for a midnight snack. As soon as they left the Rare Life Form Pavilion, Lin Yuan saw the youth with the dreadlocks jogging toward him with a smile on his face. Lu Jie immediately stepped forward and blocked in front of Lin Yuan. The youth with the dreadlocks ran over and giggled before flattering Lin Yuan. Brother, let's get to know each other. My name is Gao Feng. There might have been some misunderstanding during the auction just now. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan smiled and replied, "It's just a bidding war. Don't worry about it." After saying that, Lin Yuan was about to walk forward with Lu Jie and Wen Yu, but he realized that this youth with the dreadlocks had no intention of leaving. At that moment, the youth with the dreadlocks asked cautiously, Brother, do you still have other kinds of bronze/epic phase?" Lin Yuan knew what was going on as soon as he heard the youth with the dreadlocks words. After listening to what Lin Yuan had said to the Lightning Sparrow King at the auction, this youth with the dreadlocks had designs on the other kinds of bronze/epic phase that Lin Yuan had mentioned. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and did not immediately refuse. Instead, he said, "I do have bronze/epic phase here, but the price is not cheap. Among them, plant-type bronze/epic phase might be more expensive." From the fact that this youth with the dreadlocks wanted the source-type hurricane owlet moth so much, Lin Yuan knew that he must be able to contract a breeze hibiscus. Therefore, it was not difficult to guess this youth with the dreadlocks' fey affinity. When the youth with the dreadlocks heard Lin Yuan's answer, he was immediately delighted. Especially when he heard the words bronze/epic plant species fey. The youth with the dreadlocks' eyes almost turned into two large green and shiny light bulbs under the night sky. The youth with the dreadlocks was pleasantly surprised. "My Gao family has plenty of money. I wonder if I can take a look at what species of bronze/epic plant phase there are? Are there any that are good at attacking?" Lin Yuan asked. "I can't see them for now. Leave me your contact number, and I'll contact you when I can." The youth with the dreadlocks, Gao Feng, immediately left his number to Lin Yuan and said, "Brother, don't be in a hurry. Brother, there's no rush. You can summon me whenever you have time." After saying that, Gao Feng kept waving his hand and watched Lin Yuan and the others leave like a traffic light. Wen Yu whispered to Lin Yuan, "The Gao family that this youth with the dreadlocks mentioned should be the richest family in Wind Mist City, one of the 32 major cities." Ever since Wen Yu had become Lin Yuan's assistant, she had crammed up information on the Radiance Federation's major factions, thinking that it would be useful one day. Information on the Radiance Federation's major factions might be extremely difficult for others. However, it was very easy for Wen Yu. She just needed to browse through the Radiant Moon Palace's database. Wen Yu's hard work was finally coming in handy. Lin Yuan nodded. He would treat this youth with the dreadlocks as the first customer of his Fey store after his mansion was built. He hoped that he could exchange for something interesting from this youth with the dreadlocks. Lin Yuan no longer lacked Radiance dollars. Once his Fey store opened, it would sell high-end Feys, and he would not be able to afford it. Therefore, he naturally would not choose to trade with Radiance dollars. Instead, he would choose to barter for something that Lin Yuan was interested in. Lin Yuan, Wen Yu, and Lu Jie had a midnight snack at the night market. Lin Yuan and Wen Yu had been trained by Lu Jie during this period. The snacks in the royal capital's night market were not as delicious as Lu Jie's. Along the way, Lu Jie received a lot of compliments from Lin Yuan and Wen Yu, which made him smile foolishly. It was already very late when they returned to the mansion. However, Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to sleep. Instead, he took out the source-type item that was in the shape of an amber crystal button. He was ready to contract this amber button-shaped source-type item. He wanted to read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 220. Lin Yuan looked at the source type item that was in the shape of an amber crystal button. According to true data, this amber button-shaped source type item was called the source sand. The source sand represented the sand element of elemental source type items and could be considered a variant of the earth element. Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to immediately contract this source sand. Instead, he took out the blood-red eggshell containing the deep-sea blood mosquito that he had auctioned at the private auction from the leaf-shaped diamond fey storage box on his chest. Lin Yuan walked out of his room and came to the long corridor outside the mansion. The eaves at the top of the long corridor did not look special under the night sky, but Lin Yuan knew that the mother of Bloodbath was there. Usually, as long as Lin Yuan returned to the mansion, the mother of Bloodbath would not follow him in. The mother of Bloodbath usually rested on the eaves outside the mansion, absorbing the spirit chi of heaven and earth and comprehending the law runes in its body. Mother of Bloodbath, I've brought you the source-type item you wanted at the private auction. Lin Yuan threw the blood-red eggshell containing the deep-sea blood mosquito toward the eaves. A red shadow flashed, and the blood-red eggshell containing the deep-sea blood mosquito disappeared into the night sky. The mother of Bloodbath's pleasant and strange voice rang in Lin Yuan's ears. Lin Yuan, I owe you a favor. Thank you. After saying that, the mother of Bloodbath was silent. Lin Yuan knew that the mother of Bloodbath should be preparing to absorb the majestic blood energy in the deep-sea blood mosquito egg. As Lin Yuan's path protector, he would naturally be very happy if the mother of Bloodbath's strength could increase. Moreover, Lin Yuan and the mother of Bloodbath had slowly developed feelings for each other over the past few months. The mother of Bloodbath usually hardly spoke, was not good with words, and was cold. However, he could feel the mother of Bloodbath's concern for him. The mother of Bloodbath usually said that it would not help him unless his life was in danger. However, just like the pinnacle-class one-dimensional rift outside Millstone Town, the mother of Bloodbath actually had no need to take out the source-type item from the dimensional rift for him. It was precisely because of the source-type life form, the acid corrosion queen bee, that his strength had made a qualitative leap. Otherwise, he would not have been able to fight his way to the Celestial Stairway promotion duel by relying on the Silver Eye/Fantasy Eye Chimey and the Bronze 4/Epic Red Thorn. Not to mention the fact that he had a record of consecutive victories in the first 100 levels. The night breeze blew the green jade bells hanging on the four corners of the eaves of the house, emitting a faint ring. The clear sound of the bell was especially pleasant in the night wind. Lin Yuan took a deep breath of this late autumn night's cool air and felt energized. After looking at the beautiful scenery outside the mansion under the night sky, Lin Yuan returned to his room. He picked up the amber button-shaped elemental source-type source sand and carefully examined it before activating his spiritual energy. Lin Yuan summoned the yin-yang willpower rune he had comprehended from the alternation of the sun and moon in his spiritual energy and the myriad form willpower rune he had comprehended from the dragon phoenix landscape carp's observation of the beautiful mountains and rivers. Whether it was the yin-yang willpower rune he had comprehended from the alternation of the sun and moon or the myriad form willpower rune he had comprehended from the dragon phoenix landscape carp's observation of the beautiful mountains and rivers, their true core was change. This was also why Lin Yuan had not fused this myriad form willpower rune with Genius, which was already at Bronze X/Legend, and let Genius become a fantasy breed. For this amber button-shaped elemental source-type source sand, this kind of willpower rune with change was really suitable. Few people in this world would be like Lin Yuan, comprehending two willpower runes that were related in nature. Even if someone could comprehend two willpower runes that were related in nature, they would definitely not be willing to use two willpower runes as a prerequisite for contracting a source-type lifeform. Lin Yuan looked at the yin-yang willpower rune he had comprehended from the alternation of the sun and moon and the myriad form willpower rune he had comprehended from the beautiful mountains and rivers. His heart stirred slightly. He shot the two willpower runes into the amber button-shaped elemental source-type source sand. Then, he formed a contract with the source sand. Lin Yuan quickly completed the contract with the source sand. The two willpower runes shot into the source sand, but they were like stones sinking into the sea and did not cause any waves. The amber button-shaped elemental source-type source sand's appearance did not change in the slightest. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. This amber button-shaped elemental source-type source sand was really magical. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check the source sand's attributes. Fey name, source sand, Fey species, elemental/sand, Fey grade, normal, 1/10, Fey type, source, Fey quality, normal. Upon seeing the source sand's true data, Lin Yuan could not help but smile and shake his head. The data was so simple that it could be seen at a glance. It did not even have an ability. In fact, when Lin Yuan had used true data to check on the source sand at the auction, he had known that it was special. The source sand did not have any abilities. It would just have an exclusive skill like other phase and source-type life forms when it reached bronze. When the source sand reached legend, it would directly become a fantasy breed and would no longer need to consume willpower runes. When the source sand reached legend and became a fantasy breed, it would fuse with the 2 willpower runes consumed during the contract and produce 2 exclusive skills. These 2 exclusive skills would be determined according to the characteristics of the 2 willpower runes consumed during the contract. In other words, after the source sand became a fantasy breed, it would be a strange elemental source-type life form with no abilities but 3 exclusive skills. When Lin Yuan activated the source sand that had just been contracted, it turned into a large amount of fine sand and appeared at Lin Yuan's feet. Lin Yuan realized that he could command the source sand to turn into a large amount of fine sand as though he was commanding his own arm. For example, when Lin Yuan raised his hand, a wisp of fine sand would form a thin sand wall in the air based on Lin Yuan's thoughts to block. At that moment, Lin Yuan realized that a wisp of fine sand had the intention to drill into the ground. Lin Yuan hurriedly stopped the wisp of fine sand. This wisp of fine sand was the source sand of high concentration. The source sand's intention of drilling into the ground was to shatter the underground ores and soil to create sand. If Lin Yuan did not stop the source sand's next move, the newly built mansion would probably be destroyed by it. Lin Yuan took the source sand into the Spirit Lock spatial zone with the amber button-shaped elemental source-type source sand. What Lin Yuan was going to do next was to evolve the source sand into a fantasy breed. He wanted to see what kind of qualitative leap the source sand would have after it became a fantasy breed and produced 3 exclusive skills. He wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 221. After Lin Yuan entered the Spirit Lock spatial zone, he immediately noticed that it was different from before. A lot of the low-grade energy ores that had piled up in the Spirit Lock spatial zone had been consumed. It had to be known that Lin Yuan had just bought this huge batch of low-grade energy ores not long ago. These low-grade energy ores had been piled up by Lin Yuan at the edge of the spirit pool. At that moment, Lin Yuan realized that the gold wind speed rapid antelope, which had been placed in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, was busy pushing batches of low-grade energy ores into the spirit pool. Lin Yuan could not help but be surprised by this discovery. Lin Yuan had already put the wind speed rapid antelope on Star Web. The gold wind speed rapid antelope was listed on the Star Web, and there were plenty of people asking for a price. However, Lin Yuan had never sold the wind speed rapid antelope. At that time, Lin Yuan had been busy enhancing phase, and he had not been short of money. Now, the gold/elite wind speed rapid antelope was still in his purchase with no loss store, but Lin Yuan had never thought of looking for information to purchase the wind speed rapid antelope. Although the wind speed rapid antelope was only elite, there were very few cases of a silver sword horn speed antelope undergoing spiritual mutation and evolving into a gold wind speed rapid antelope. Therefore, even if the wind speed rapid antelope's quality was not high, it was still very popular. As a gold fey, the wind speed rapid antelope could sense that the spirit chi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone was gathering in one direction and constantly decreasing. As a fey, it had an instinct for a high spirit chi concentration. This instinct allowed the wind speed rapid antelope to constantly push low-grade energy ores into the spirit pool. Lin Yuan could not help but ponder that the wind speed rapid antelope was unexpectedly useful. Batch after batch of low-grade energy ores were pushed into the spiritual pool, and they were quickly decomposed into pure spiritual chi. This pure spirit chi was constantly gathering on a new glazed stone pillar in the spirit lock spatial zone. There was a small bowl made of limestone on this stone pillar. When the spirit chi gathered in the bowl, it started to constantly compress. Lin Yuan knew that this was Morbius' new ability, spirit chi condensation, which was condensing spirit chi crystals. Lin Yuan had previously thought of Morbius' spirit chi condensation ability. Condensing spirit chi crystals would consume a large number of energy ores, but he did not expect it to consume so many low-grade energy ores in a short period of time. If Morbius wanted to condense a spirit chi crystal, it would take at least 7 days with sufficient spirit chi. The low-grade energy ores in the spirit lock spatial zone could last for at least another 3 days. It allowed the source sand to quickly crush the sand and ores underground and produce a huge amount of gravel. The first of the 2 exclusive skills was to increase the source sand's attack power. The second exclusive skill, proliferation sand, increased the source sand's ability in all aspects. Although the proliferation sand was not as effective as the seething sand in terms of attack. However, in terms of defense and control, the proliferating sand was more comprehensive. If Lin Yuan had to choose between these 2 exclusive skills, he would choose the proliferation sand without hesitation. Although the seething sand was very powerful, it would clash with the sea of flowers that Lin Yuan's contracted source-type life form, red thorn, spread out. Under the seething sand's high temperature, it would be very difficult for red thorn's sea of flowers to survive, let alone fight. As a spirit chi professional, when contracting a Fey, the most taboo was to restrict the abilities or exclusive skills between the 2 Feys. This was undoubtedly the same as devaluing one's strength during the battle. The exclusive skill that Lin Yuan was really worried about was the 3rd exclusive skill, Sand Control. Sand Control was an exclusive skill that could increase his control over the source sand and reduce the spiritual power consumption when commanding the source sand. Lin Yuan was very satisfied with the Sand Control, which could reduce the spiritual power consumption when controlling the source sand. In a battle, every spirit chi professional was like a bucket, and spiritual power was the water. Every time the water in the bucket was used, there would be less. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 222. During Lin Yuan's first Star Web promotion duel, he had been at a disadvantage in the distribution of spiritual power. This made Lin Yuan pay great attention to the distribution of spiritual power in battle. As an all-round source-type item, Lin Yuan would use it frequently in battle. In Lin Yuan's opinion, it was much more useful than increasing the source sand's attack power when controlling the source sand in battle. However, before Lin Yuan enhanced the source sand, he had already used it. Lin Yuan already felt that commanding the source sand was like commanding his own body, and it was very smooth. Therefore, how could he increase the source sand's control? In the end, after hesitating for a moment, Lin Yuan firmly chose Sand Control. Putting aside the control ability, just based on the fact that Sand Control could save spiritual power, Lin Yuan had already decided to choose Sand Control. After Lin Yuan chose the exclusive skill, the source sand was finally considered to be a bronze source-type item. At that moment, the source sand was no longer a blank slate. Although the source sand still did not have any abilities, it had its first exclusive skill. Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to continue enhancing the source sand's quality. He raised it to legend and promoted it into a fantasy breed. Instead, he carefully examined the source sand's newly obtained exclusive skill, Sand Control. The source sand, which was now at bronze, had faint patterns on its crystal-sculpted button. These patterns were like the faint patterns on the gravel. Although every grain of gravel had a different pattern, just by looking at the source sand's amber crystal button's clear gravel pattern, it seemed to contain all the possible patterns that could exist in the fine sand. After looking at it for a long time, it was as though one could see a barren desert through the source sand. Lin Yuan activated the source sand, which was now at bronze. This time, the source sand had turned into nearly 50 caddies of gravel. Lin Yuan could feel that if he let the source sand's high concentration of gravel drill into the ground, it would not take long for it to create a large amount of fresh sand. Now that he was commanding the source sand to form various shapes, Lin Yuan realized that it was much easier than before. Previously, he had used his body to control the gravel. Now, it was as though a thought flashed in Lin Yuan's mind, and the gravel would start to move according to Lin Yuan's subconscious thoughts. After experimenting for a while, Lin Yuan suddenly realized that his control over the source sand wasn't just limited to controlling its shape. At the same time, he also found that he could control the density of the gravel and the pressure of the interaction between the gravel. He tried to manipulate a wisp of yellow sand to wrap around the low-grade energy or at the edge of the spirit pool. The sturdy low-grade energy ore was easily crushed by a wisp of yellow sand from the source-type source sand. This discovery made Lin Yuan very happy. Lin Yuan tried to see how strong the pressure between the yellow sand was. In the end, he found that the intensity of the pressure was directly related to the spiritual power he consumed. At the same time, Lin Yuan also realized that he didn't consume any spiritual power when he commanded the yellow sand to change its shape. Only by increasing the pressure between the yellow sand and crushing the objects would it consume a small amount of spiritual energy. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Sand Grasp had really saved him a lot of spiritual power consumption. At the same time, it had also increased his combat ability to command the yellow sand. Moreover, the ability to change the pressure and density of the yellow sand was invisible to the naked eye, and it had the element of surprise and concealment. As long as the yellow sand was covered, Lin Yuan's claws would be everywhere. Lin Yuan looked at this elemental source-type life form that was even more exquisite than a work of art and was full of amazement. Although the source sand didn't have any abilities, just this exclusive skill alone made it not weaker than other phase and source-type life forms. In fact, if he really had to compare, the source sand was much stronger. For the next 5 days, Lin Yuan entered the same state of seclusion as before. Apart from eating with Wen Yu and Lu Jie, he would also ensure that he slept for 5 hours. Apart from ensuring 5 hours of sleep, he used the rest of the time to continuously enhance the source sand. During these 5 days, Lin Yuan almost did not pay attention to outside matters. Finally, the source sand's quality was upgraded from Bronze X/Epic to Legend. The moment the source-type source sand advanced from Bronze/Epic to Legendary, a huge gust of wind blew past them. Suddenly, the amber-colored crystal button-shaped source sand rose into the air amidst the swirling gravel. The 2 willpower runes that had been lurking in the source sand's body during the contract immediately emitted light. At this moment, the yin-yang willpower rune that Lin Yuan had comprehended from the alternation of the sun and moon and the myriad form willpower rune that he had comprehended from watching the Dragon Phoenix Landscape Carp's beautiful landscape transformation were considered to have truly merged with the source sand. The crystal button-shaped source sand's amber light shone brightly. Lin Yuan felt as though he was looking at a mysterious painting that seemed to exist in the wilderness. The mountains and rivers that stretched for thousands of miles were beautiful, constantly changing in the countless cycles of the sun and moon. Finally, under the alternation of the sun and moon, the beautiful landscape turned into a desert ruin. A gust of wind blew, blowing up the yellow sand in the sky. Whether it was the alternation of the sun and moon or the flow of the mountains and rivers, everything finally turned into gravel. This gravel gathered in this small amber-colored crystal button-shaped source sand that was even more exquisite than a work of art. When all the radiance converged on the crystal button-shaped source sand, the yellow sand immediately enveloped the source sand. When the amber-colored crystal button-shaped source sand revealed its appearance again, Lin Yuan realized that this amber-colored crystal button-shaped source sand was already very different from before. This amber-colored crystal button-shaped source sand had returned to its original appearance when Lin Yuan had first contracted it. It was plain and unadorned, and there were no clues. However, when Lin Yuan carefully observed it, he realized that this simple amber-colored crystal button-shaped source sand still contained a world full of yellow sand. Lin Yuan had heard of a phrase before, and it was called, "from complexity to simplicity." Lin Yuan had never understood what it meant. But now that he saw this source-type source sand slowly becoming exquisite from its initial appearance and finally becoming a fantasy breed before returning to its original appearance, Lin Yuan understood the meaning of from complexity to simplicity. In fact, it was the same for humans. From complexity to simplicity, everything would eventually return to being ordinary, but ordinary people could not be ordinary. Lin Yuan held this amber-colored crystal button-shaped source sand that didn't forget its original intention. He used true data to check on the two exclusive skills that the Bronze X/Fantasy I source-type source sand had comprehended after becoming a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan couldn't help but raise his brows. This was because the two exclusive skills that the source sand had comprehended after becoming a fantasy breed were really related to transformation. However, these two kinds of transformations were completely different. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 223. At that moment, the Bronze X/Fantasy I source sand already had 3 exclusive skills. Apart from the exclusive skill sand control that the source sand had obtained after reaching bronze, the other 2 exclusive skills were Metal Consume Manifestation and Gravel Spirit Acceptance. The other 2 exclusive skills were Metal Consume Manifestation and Gravel Spirit Acceptance. Metal Consume Manifestation and Gravel Spirit Acceptance were the 2 exclusive skills that the source sand had obtained after evolving into a fantasy breed. In Lin Yuan's opinion, these 2 exclusive skills were indeed formed from the Yin-Yang Willpower Rune that he had comprehended from the Yin-Yang Alternation and the Myriad Form Willpower Rune that he had comprehended from the Dragon Phoenix Landscape Carp Body's Magnificent Landscape Transformation. Be it Metal Consume Manifestation or Gravel Spirit Acceptance, they both had extremely strong transformation characteristics. When looking at the Metal Consume Manifestation, Lin Yuan's eyes immediately lit up. Metal Consume Manifestation could devour a type of metal in the source sand, allowing the source sand to possess a portion of the devoured metal's characteristics. It could even quickly condense the devoured metal in the gravel during combat, forming a specific form for attack, defense, or control. The amount of a certain type of metal that Metal Consume Manifestation could devour was determined by the source-type source sand's grade. This exclusive skill allowed the source sand's combat style to immediately undergo a qualitative change. After all, the source sand was just a pile of yellow sand. Even if its offensive ability was strong, it was only strong to a limit. However, Metal Consume Manifestation was akin to burying a sharp sword in the sea of sand that could be brandished at any time. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and decided to use ferromanganese, which was refined from ferromanganese or as the source sand's Metal Consume form would devour. The source sand's Metal Consume Manifestation did not mean that it could not be changed after devouring a specific metal. On the contrary, the source sand could change the metal it devoured according to Lin Yuan's instructions. The source sand was currently only at Bronze X/Epic, so the ferromanganese refined from the ferromanganese ore was undoubtedly very suitable for the source sand at this grade. The ferromanganese's characteristics were very simple: hardness and sharpness. The ferromanganese's surface was not smooth, and there were many kinds of flaky faults. If these flaky faults scratched the target's body, they would be able to injure the target's skin like a sharp file. If they pierced the target's body, they would simply be a sharp weapon for bleeding. Other than the gravel that the source sand had turned into, the gravel that it produced afterward was basically made by crushing the soil and ores in the ground to create sand. At that moment, the Bronze X/Fantasy I source sand strength was not enough to directly smash the high-density fine sand deep underground, shatter the solid rocks deep underground, and create a large amount of solid gravel. On the other hand, if the ferromanganese ores were transformed by the source sand by metal devouring, it would immediately increase the toughness of the source sand's gravel and its ability to produce sand. It could even make the edges and corners of the source sand's gravel sharper. As a bronze-grade spiritual material, ferromanganese could be auctioned in the Star Web's Rare Life Form Pavilion. He bought a large number of bronze ferromanganese from the Star Web's Rare Life Form Pavilion. At the same time, he went to Zhou Jiasen's shop and bought a large amount of low-grade energy ores. Lin Yuan had purchased a lot of low-grade energy ores this time, and they were stored in silver phase storage boxes. They should be able to be stored in the Spirit Lock spatial zone for a long period of time. Lin Yuan took out the ferromanganese that he had obtained. The flakes of ferromanganese were blackish blue in color, and they had more metallic luster than the ferromanganese ores. Lin Yuan let the source sand devour the ferromanganese that he had just obtained. While the source sand was devouring the ferromanganese, Lin Yuan constantly observed the source sand's changes. Lin Yuan realized that the source sand's changes weren't very obvious. However, the gravel's hardness was much higher than before. If he pinched a wisp of fine sand, he would be able to feel that the fine sand was like thorns that pricked his fingertips. Lin Yuan knew that the ferromanganese's metallic characteristics had been transferred to the source sand. Lin Yuan had purchased a lot of ferromanganese, but he had still underestimated the source sand's metal-devouring form and the amount of bronze ferromanganese that it could devour. In the end, Lin Yuan was only left with less than 150 caddies of ferromanganese out of the 4,000 caddies that he had purchased. After the source sand's metal-devouring form had devoured the ferromanganese, Lin Yuan began to carefully consider the form that the ferromanganese would take during battle. During metal-devouring form, the ferromanganese's form wasn't something that Lin Yuan could directly change. Due to the ferromanganese's hardness, if Lin Yuan were to change its form during battle, the source sand would precipitate the ferromanganese and turn it into a weapon, and it would consume a lot of spiritual power. Therefore, the weapon form that the source sand's metal-devouring form required Lin Yuan to condense before the source sand could memorize it. During the battle, Lin Yuan only needed a single command, and the source sand would be able to rely on metal-devouring form to produce the weapon form that it was already familiar with for battle. Since the source sand could only specify one weapon form, Lin Yuan had to be cautious about this weapon form. There were all sorts of weapon forms. Shields could be used for defense. Sharp swords could be used for damage. Chains or whips could be used for control. However, be it shields, sharp swords, chains, or whips, their effects were too monotonous. However, Lin Yuan was a clever fellow and quickly thought of a solution. The solution was the chain sword. The chain sword combined the advantages of sharp swords and chains, combining control and attack. At the same time, Lin Yuan widened the blade of the sharp sword so that it could be used as a shield to block attacks. Lin Yuan's design wouldn't reduce the source sand's metal-devouring form weapon's combat ability. On the contrary, due to the irregular fracture on the ferromanganese's surface, the chain sword's blade turned into a huge file. When the chain sword wrapped around the target, the sword didn't need to slash and only needed to rub to tear off a layer of flesh from the target's body. At the same time, when several chain swords were paired together, the broad and thick blades would intersect to form a giant iron cage. After trapping the target in the iron cage and controlling the target, the source sand could sink the trapped target deep underground. Then, it would change the pressure and density to trap the target underground. After making the decision, Lin Yuan transmitted the chain sword's appearance that was different from ordinary chain swords to the source sand. Immediately after, the source sand transformed back into the amber crystal button. The source sand still needed to memorize the chain sword's form before it could follow Lin Yuan's consciousness and casually suck out the high-purity ferromanganese from the yellow sand to form the chain sword. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 224. Previously, Lin Yuan had also thought of letting the source sand devour a high-grade metal spiritual ingredient. Even if he could only devour a small amount of high-grade spirit materials, it would still be able to cause explosive damage in battle. However, Lin Yuan gave up after some consideration. Be it the silver/fantasy breed Chimey or the gold/legend acid corrosion queen bee, they had extremely powerful single-target explosive abilities. Lin Yuan did not really need the source sand to deal extremely strong burst damage. On the contrary, after the source sand had devoured the ferromanganese, it had developed in all aspects, and Lin Yuan's combat strength had increased even more. After looking at the source sand's second exclusive skill, Lin Yuan was extremely satisfied with it. However, when Lin Yuan saw the third exclusive skill, he was stunned. Lin Yuan immediately felt that the Source Sand's comprehension of these two willpower runes was really fucking direct. Of these two transformations, one was alive, and the other was lifeless. The third exclusive skill, Gravel Spirit Acceptance, allowed the Source Sand to devour a Fey or dimensional life form. The number of Phase and Source-type life forms that the Source Sand could devour depended on the life form's energy and the complexity of the template. Therefore, he had to carefully consider whether he should let the Source Sand's third exclusive skill, Gravel Spirit Acceptance, devour multiple targets and form a small army in the yellow sand. Furthermore, it would only devour one unit, allowing this unit's individual ability to reach the limit that the Source Sand's Gravel Spirit Acceptance could withstand. In the end, he gave up on the first idea. After experimenting, he realized that if the Source Sand only used its exclusive skill, Gravel Spirit Acceptance, to devour the dimensional life forms in Class 1-dimensional rifts, the Source Sand wouldn't be able to devour them. Depending on the genetic model of these Class 1-dimensional life forms, the Source Sand could accept anywhere from 10 to 25 Gravel Spirits. The number of Class 1-dimensional life forms in the Source Sand was equivalent to the same number of Bronze Phase. Such bronze strength would not be of much use to Lin Yuan. Not only was it inferior to Red Thorn's Sea of Flowers, but it wasn't even as strong as the Source Sand. Lin Yuan realized that if the Bronze X/Fantasy Source Sand were to devour the Class 2-dimensional life form, the Horned Demon, in the Abyss Dimensional Rift, it would be able to reach the Gravel Spirit Acceptance's limits. Moreover, the Level 2 Horned Demon that the Gravel Acceptance had was a very comprehensive unit. It had the strength of a silver pinnacle. However, to Lin Yuan, it was still somewhat tasteless and a pity to discard. There were countless dimensional life form corpses in the leaf-shaped Fey storage box. Just as Lin Yuan was searching, he suddenly discovered a dimensional life form that he had seen with his own eyes. This dimensional creature was a Class 3 alien insect, heart-penetrating iron line. The endurance of the Source Sand's exclusive skill, Gravel Spirit Acceptance, was determined by the energy contained in the target's body and the complexity of the genetic model. If there was a dimensional creature with the simplest genetic model, it would undoubtedly be the heart-penetrating iron line. The threaded iron wire was able to become a Class 3 alien insect with such a simple genetic model. Apart from its extremely powerful concealment ability, it also had a terrifying penetrative ability. The sea of sand formed by Lin Yuan's Source Sand was enough for the heart-penetrating iron line to hide. Every patch of yellow sand was the best place to hide. The heart-penetrating iron line could assassinate targets in the sea of sand like an invisible assassin. However, in his heart, the best way to use the heart-penetrating iron line was to use quicksand to sink the target into the sea of sand. When the target struggled in the sea of sand and was ready to break free, the heart-penetrating iron line could find an opportunity to pierce through the heart and complete the kill. In fact, when the chain swords formed a cage to sink the target into the ground, the heart-penetrating iron line could also give a fatal blow. As an invisible assassin hiding under the sea of sand, the heart-penetrating iron line could take lives but not reveal itself. Lin Yuan first picked out a heart-penetrating iron line that was equivalent to a gold eye normal Fey from the leaf-shaped diamond Fey storage box. He let the Source Sand use its exclusive skill, Gravel Spirit Acceptance, to devour this heart-penetrating iron line that was equivalent to a gold eye normal Fey. Lin Yuan realized that this gold eye/normal heart-penetrating iron line did not reach the limit of the Source Sand's exclusive skill, Gravel Spirit Acceptance. After some experimentation, Lin Yuan found that the Source Sand's Bronze X/Fantasy Eye strength could only accept heart-penetrating iron line's limit. The Gravel Spirit Acceptance heart-penetrating iron line's limit was to accept a heart-penetrating iron line that was equivalent to a gold 3/Elite Fey. Lin Yuan could not help but lament that the Class 3 heart-penetrating iron lines template was simply too simple. However, this simple heart-penetrating iron line template was really useful. After the Source Sand's exclusive skill, Gravel Spirit Acceptance, the heart-penetrating iron line could also be replaced. However, the Source Sand had already fallen into a dormant state. It was condensing the chain swords from metal consume manifestation and the gravel spirit acceptance of the heart-penetrating iron line that was equivalent to a gold 3/elite Fae. The source sand had to reassemble the heart-penetrating iron line in the form of sand, so this process required the source sand to sleep deeply for a few hours. At this moment, the source-type source sand finally revealed its current strength at its peak. Fae name: Source sand, amber button, Fae species, elemental/sand, Fae grade, bronze X, Fae type, source, Fae quality, fantasy I exclusive skill frowny face sand control, increases the contractor's control over the source sand and reduces the consumption of spiritual power when controlling the sand. Metal consume manifestation, can devour a type of metal into the source sand, allowing it to have the characteristics of devouring metal. At the same time, it can quickly condense the metal in the gravel and turn it into a specified form. Ferromanganese chain sword, gravel spirit acceptance. The source sand can devour a Fae or dimensional life form. The amount of devouring depends on the life form's energy and the complexity of the template. Level 3 alien insect, heart-piercing iron line. Without Morbius spirit energy condensation, which could condense spirit energy crystals, he would not have been able to do so. He would probably have to enter seclusion for another month to raise the source sand strength from bronze X/fantasy breed to silver/fantasy breed. However, with Morbius spirit energy condensation, he could condense spirit energy crystals. There was no need for him to waste this month. It was now the most precious period for him to improve his strength. During this period, the most important thing for him was to quickly increase his Spirit Chi professional rank while improving his combat skills. Then, he would try to get into the Radiance 100 sequence this year. With Morbius spiritual energy condensation condensed into a spiritual energy crystal, the source sand strength could increase from bronze level 10 to silver level with just one. There were still 2 more days before the first spiritual energy crystal would be formed. Lin Yuan exited the Spirit Lock spatial zone and took a good bath before leaving the room to have a sumptuous dinner with Wenyu and Lu Jie. After dinner, the trio chatted for a while and then played the Radiance Federation's currently very popular Fae Battle Chess. While Lin Yuan had been in seclusion for the past few days, Wenyu and Lu Jie had been desperately improving their strength. Wenyu was improving her ability as a creation master, hoping to be of better help to Lin Yuan. Lu Jie had let the insect queen devour the source-type hurricane owlet moth and inscribe a template to produce a platinum ability. During these 5 days after the insect queen's platinum ability was completed, Lu Jie had arranged to spar with Bai Hao on Star Web to perfect his insect queen's tactical arrangement after obtaining a new ability. Lu Jie was not like other Spirit Chi professionals who only needed to control a few Faes. Lu Jie's combat method was completely like a commander commanding an insect swarm composed of 5 types of insects. Therefore, his tactical arrangement had to be very meticulous. Lu Jie also hoped that he could become stronger so that he could better protect this youth in front of him. It was late at night. These few days of seclusion had kept Lin Yuan's spirit in a tense state during the process of enhancing the source sand. Therefore, he really needed to have a good sleep to recover his spirit. However, Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to rest. Instead, he logged into Star Web. He was ready to fight his second Celestial Stairway promotion duel. He wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 225. After Lin Yuan used his identity as Black to log onto the Star Web, he suddenly recalled that it had been 8 days since he had used a large batch of completely jade-made red sandalwood to customize the red sandalwood fish tank. According to the previous agreement, the Class 4 Spirit Craftsman would use the address he had left behind 2 days later. He brought over the red sandalwood fish tank that was completely made of jade-made red sandalwood. The spirit pool in Lin Yuan's Spirit Lock spatial zone was only close to 20 square meters, and it wasn't considered huge. The 3 Dragon Phoenix landscape carps, which were 1 meter long, had 1 meter long tail fins, and had nearly 1 meter wide spread fins, were being raised in the spirit pool in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. It had already affected the large batch of Elite 5 fortune ranches that Lin Yuan was nurturing. Furthermore, the spirit gather goldfish, Blackie, was usually more lively and active. It would always cause trouble for the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps, causing chaos in the spirit pool. 4 fays that had awakened the dragon species bloodline, their territorial awareness had always been very strong. If it wasn't for the fact that these 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps were naturally auspicious and would make natural creatures instinctively get close to them. At the same time, Blackie also knew that Lin Yuan had personally placed the 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps in the spirit pool. Perhaps the spirit gather goldfish, Blackie, had already launched an attack on the 3 bronze X/epic dragon phoenix landscape carps. The spirit gather goldfish might not be a match for these 3 bronze X/epic dragon phoenix landscape carps. After all, there was a huge difference in size. Furthermore, Blackie was a support-type fae and did not possess any combat ability. However, such territorial awareness was a kind of dignity that was engraved in the bones of dragon species fays, and they could use their lives to defend it. During this period of time, Lin Yuan had been comforting Blackie. However, when the red sandalwood fish tank, which was made of completely jade-made red sandalwood, was delivered, these 3 dragon phoenix landscape carps could then leave the spirit pool and be kept in the red sandalwood fish tank in the mansion. At that time, the dragon phoenix landscape carps, as a superior auspicious sign, would be able to comprehend the exclusive skill, place of life, which would protect the manor's plants from withering and the water from freezing. It allowed everything in the manor to grow in the most comfortable environment and stay away from diseases. Lin Yuan had already arrived at the Star Web Tower and was preparing to participate in the second promotion duel when he saw over a dozen unread messages in his personal message column. Since Black's identity had been set to reject all messages, he naturally would not receive messages from any strangers. Tian Ningning was the only one on Black's friend list. In other words, these dozens of messages were all sent by Tian Ningning alone. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly recalled the Star Web reporter, Tian Ningning, who had been contacting him previously. It was not that Lin Yuan had completely forgotten about Tian Ningning, but the 5 days of seclusion had left him with no time to think about anything else. He had originally planned to look for Tian Ningning after the second promotion duel. But now that he saw that Tian Ningning had sent him so many messages, he opened the information bar and checked the messages that she had sent him. At the very beginning, Tian Ningning had sent him a battle record. After that, almost every day, Tian Ningning would leave a message asking if he was there or what he thought of the battle record. From Tian Ningning's attitude, Lin Yuan could feel that she really wanted to be his exclusive reporter. Lin Yuan clicked on the battle record that Tian Ningning had sent him and read it carefully. This battle record was not considered long, but Lin Yuan read it carefully for a few minutes. Tian Ningning's battle record was actually much plainer than the battle records of the other Star Web reporters, which had been specially polished. However, Tian Ningning's battle record was more objective and realistic compared to the battle records written by the other Star Web reporters. Tian Ningning was really standing on Black's side and used the way of stating the facts to record the battle. Moreover, Tian Ningning's analysis of the battle in several places made Lin Yuan rather amazed. Tian Ningning was able to ingeniously point out the areas where Lin Yuan felt that he had grown and comprehended in this battle. It was obvious that Tian Ningning had a certain understanding of the battle between spirit chi professionals. Tian Ningning had also grasped the details of the battle very accurately. She had memorized almost every detail of the battle without missing a single detail. Lin Yuan admired Tian Ningning's realistic recording style very much. Lin Yuan replied below, "Black, your battle record is written well. If you can use such a realistic and objective style to write news about me and do battle records, then you can become my exclusive reporter. I wish us a happy cooperation." Tian Ningning had been very apprehensive when writing the battle record. Especially after sending the battle record that she had written to Black, that apprehension was even more intense. Since Tian Ningning had not received Black's reply, she had been in a very disappointed mood for the past few days. This opportunity was something that Tian Ningning had painstakingly begged for. She could not help but blame herself for choosing to write the battle record in such a realistic way and wasting the opportunity that she had painstakingly asked for. But at the same time, Tian Ningning felt a sense of relief in her heart. This was because this real battle mechanism was considered to have given her an explanation. When Tian Ningning had used such a realistic style to write the battle report, she had wanted to give herself psychological comfort. As a star web columnist, Tian Ningning had always had her own insistence. Black's image of a young hero who had defended Millstone Town from the invasion of the insect tide and turned the tide had always appeared in Tian Ningning's mind. Tian Ningning could not bear to tarnish that heroic feat with a false style. Even though she was thinking like this, Tian Ningning had been feeling uneasy for the past few days. She had been wondering why she had not received a reply from Black. In fact, Tian Ningning had to look at the Star Web streak ranking several times a day to see if there were any changes to Black's number of matches at the top. For the past few days, Tian Ningning had not been able to do anything and had been immersed in Star Web. During these 5 days, Tian Ningning looked much more haggard than 5 days ago. At that moment, Tian Ningning suddenly realized that Black, who had been missing for the past few days, had actually replied to her message. Upon seeing Black's message, Tian Ningning quickly rubbed her eyes, afraid that she was seeing things. She had been looking forward to it when there had been no message, but now that she knew that Black had replied to her, Tian Ningning really did not have the courage to open Black's message. Tian Ningning was afraid that she would see Black's rejection. When Tian Ningning mustered up her courage and opened Black's message made Tian Ningning's nose sour, and her eyes suddenly became moist. Black agreed to let me be his exclusive reporter. This thought resonated in Tian Ningning's mind. Becoming Black's exclusive reporter made Tian Ningning very excited, but what touched her even more was that she had obtained Black's approval by using a true style to write the battle record. At the same time, the radiant image of the silver-masked, black-clothed, and resolute youth in her heart became more realistic and vivid. Tian Ningning looked at Black's message for a long time before replying with 2 words with a trembling voice. Tian Ningning, thank you. At that moment, Lin Yuan had already started the matchmaking for the second Celestial Stairway promotion duel. The instant Lin Yuan chose the matchmaking, he did not have to wait and was immediately matched with an opponent. The Celestial Stairway promotion duels were like a watershed that divided the Star Tower duelists into upper and lower groups. The difficulty of the Celestial Stairway promotion duels also determined the number of duelists who were stuck in the promotion duels. Even if there were people who managed to climb the stairway through luck, due to the rules of the Star Tower, they would have to fight at least once in a while. It was precisely because of this rule that those who were not strong enough to climb the stairway to heaven would fall from the stairway to heaven. When he had climbed the tower previously, most of the duelists he had been matched with were men. But this time, Lin Yuan was matched with a female spirit chi professional. The female spirit chi professional, who was standing opposite Lin Yuan, was about to say something to the air when she saw Lin Yuan, and she was startled. After carefully checking Lin Yuan's battle record, the female spirit chi professional gritted her teeth and said, "That's right. You're Black? Tell me, do you know the moderator of your Tieba forum and the moderator of your official fan group, that son of a bitch called Zuan?" Bai Duan immediately read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 226. Just as Lin Yuan was fighting Poison Beauty on Star Web as Black, Poison Beauty suddenly appeared. Black's current deeds were so legendary and so popular. Naturally, a portion of the viewers in Poison Beauty's live streaming room were fans of her and also fans of Black. Therefore, the duel between Poison Beauty and Black was spread. At that moment, a large number of viewers crazily poured into Poison Beauty's live streaming room, and it became really lively. Cold Wind, I'm here to cheer for my male god Black. Poison Beauty, this auntie, kept on talking about something. If you want to fight, hurry up and fight. Wandering Soul, Little Sister Poison's acting skills are getting better and better. It's simply art. If Little Sister Poison didn't do it every time she was matched with an opponent, I would have almost believed it. I have a story, you prepare wine. Auntie Poison is about to die from anger from Black. He's really a straight man, and his words are so ridiculous. What do I want? Poison Beauty is a support-type spirit chi professional. The people behind the fog should have already started their battle formation. I'm really worried for Black. I wonder if he knows. Are you stupid? The commenter above is obviously an old viewer of Old Lady Poison. You even know the trick so well. At that moment, Long Tao was leading the Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team members and reserve team members in a coaching battle. After hearing that Black was going to fight in the second round of the Celestial Stairway promotion competition, he was shocked. He pulled the main team and reserve team members to the viewing room to watch Black's second Celestial Stairway promotion duel. They were there to watch Black's second Celestial Stairway promotion duel. Long Tao had not been able to contact Black during this period. Long Tao knew that the Extreme Guild Club's S-Tournament reserve team members knew Black. However, at this stage, everyone was preparing for the S-Tournament. As the captain of the main team of the A-level Dragon Gate Guild Club, Long Tao naturally would not rashly contact the reserve team members of the B-level Guild Club's S-Tournament team. If this was spread as news by someone with ulterior motives, it would probably cause a lot of trouble in this season. Long Tao naturally hoped to be able to contact Black. Regardless of whether he succeeded or not, he would at least have a face-to-face talk first. Black's second Celestial Stairway promotion duel was equivalent to an observation of Black for Long Tao. This would allow Long Tao to better understand Black's strength. Other than wanting to blacklist him for an interview, Long Tao also felt that Black's temperament was inexplicably familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. This sense of familiarity made Long Tao unable to figure it out. This made Long Tao very mad. The members of the Dragon Gate Guild Club had been training crazily during this period of time. During these days of boring training, the name they heard the most was Black. Therefore, the members of the Dragon Gate Guild Club had a deep impression of Black and were very curious about him. Needless to say, Cheng Hongfeng was defeated by Black in the last Celestial Stairway promotion competition. Chen Hongfeng couldn't accept it no matter how he thought about it. If he had known that Black had a fae like the blue flash purple butterfly, he wouldn't have been unable to take precautions in advance and let the huge-tailed swamp lizard be firmly controlled by the blue flash purple butterfly. Therefore, Cheng Hongfeng was very concerned about Black's second Celestial Stairway promotion duel. He wanted to see if he had lost unjustly. Chen Hongfeng knew that compared to Poison Beauty's strength, he was not as powerful as her. He might even be exhausted to death by Poison Beauty after fighting for 20 minutes. However, Cheng Hongfeng felt that he was 7 or 8 years younger than her. Sometimes youth was capital. Cheng Hongfeng was also confident that when he was the same age as Poison Beauty, he could leave her behind by 7 or 8 streets. After playing the Fey Battle Flag game with Lu Jie and Wen Yu, he returned to his room and did not choose to sleep. Instead, he logged onto Star Web. It was the same for Lu Jie. Lu Jie was about to log onto Star Web and call Bai Hao for sparring. After a few days of sparring, Lu Jie had become more proficient in his Insect Queen's combat system. However, when Lu Jie looked for Bai Hao this time, Bai Hao replied with a message. Ranger Bai Hao, wait for me for a while. I'm going to watch a live broadcast. When Lu Jie saw Bai Hao's message, he could not help but be a little speechless. Heart of Insect Swarm Lu Jie. It's that face-blocking live streamer called Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess again? Ranger Bai Hao, don't insult the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess. What's wrong with face-blocking? Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess hopes that we can pay more attention to her singing voice and not her appearance. This shows that she's not a superficial person but a person with great connotation and poetic charm. Lu Jie was a little speechless. What did I say? I didn't say anything. Brainless fans are really scary. Heart of Insect Swarm Lu Jie. What other live streamers are you going to watch if not the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess? Come and train. Ranger Bai Hao. I'm going to watch Black's Battle live broadcast. Black's bird phase cry is very pleasant to listen to. It makes me feel like I'm listening to the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess sing. Since the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess isn't live streaming, I'm going to listen to the bird phase cry as a way to miss the Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess. At that moment, Lu Jie felt that brainless fans were not scary. A brainless fan called Bai Hao was scary. Lu Jie was used to big storms, so his curiosity was not that strong. He had heard of Black's recent appearance. Many people compared Black's heroic deeds in Millstone Town with his heroic deeds. Lu Jie did not know what Black had done in Millstone Town, but he knew that it was not so easy to be a hero. This was because the moment one decided to be a hero, one should already have the awareness of sacrificing for radiance. In Lu Jie's opinion, Black might have been the same at that time. Since Bai Hao had gone to watch Black's live streaming, Lu Jie thought that he might as well go and take a look too. He asked Bai Hao to send him a link to Black's live streaming room. Lu Jie clicked on the link sent by Bai Hao. When the Radiance 100 sequence members entered the Star Web live streaming room, there would be a special reminder. If Lu Jie wanted to return to the Radiance 100 sequence, he would need to pass the Radiance Federation's internal special assessment this year and participate in the Radiance 100 sequences ranking. Before the Radiance 100 sequences ranking really started, Lu Jie could fight for a sequence in the Radiance 100 according to his strength. This was the privilege that the Radiance Federation had given Lu Jie as a hero who had retired due to serious injuries and had now returned to the Radiance 100 sequence. However, since Lu Jie was still not a Radiance 100 sequence member, there was no special reminder for him to enter Poison Beauty's live streaming room. However, it was different for Patroller Bai Hao, who was Radiance 100 sequence number 87. As soon as Bai Hao entered Poison Beauty's live streaming room, he immediately attracted the attention of countless people. The topic of the live streaming room shifted from the duel between Poison Beauty and Black to Patroller Bai Hao, who was Radiance 100 sequence number 87. Countless people sent their regards to Bai Hao. The bullet screen was filled with rows of, "Good evening, Lord Patroller." This was enough to show the Radiance 100 sequence's status and prestige in the Radiance Federation. However, Lu Jie did not seem to care about all of this at all. At that moment, Lu Jie's eyes were filled with the azure blue bird flying above the silver-masked youth. The moment the azure bird entered Lu Jie's line of sight, Lu Jie's eyes lit up. Lu Jie was completely dumbstruck by what he saw. This was because he was simply too familiar with this azure blue bird. Baiduan read the latest chapter of the Imperial Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 227. Wasn't this azure blue bird the silver/fantasy breed Fey that Lin Yuan had contracted? Lu Jie was already very familiar with Chai-Mi during this period of time. Due to Lin Yuan's close relationship with Lu Jie, Chai-Mi had seen it. Therefore, Chai-Mi was also relatively close to Lu Jie and would occasionally eat the usnea leaves that Lu Jie fed it. Now, Lu Jie actually saw Chai-Mi in Black's Celestial Stairway promotion duel. Black's identity was self-evident. Ever since Lu Jie became Lin Yuan's retainer, he knew that Lin Yuan always had his own standards and persistence in doing things. He had his own understanding and views of things. He was also very hardworking. To Lu Jie, Lin Yuan had always been like a cloud of fog that he could not see through. At first, Lu Jie only knew that Lin Yuan was a Class 2 creation master. However, the more he interacted with Lin Yuan, the more Lu Jie felt that he should understand Lin Yuan, and the more he felt that Lin Yuan was more mysterious. Until now, Lu Jie unexpectedly learned another layer of Lin Yuan's identity. Lin Yuan's other identity was the Radiance Federation's newly rising young hero, Black. Lu Jie remembered that he could always hear people comparing Black's deeds with his own. Lu Jie instinctively had a good impression of Black. Perhaps this was like the recognition between people with the same beliefs. However, Lu Jie did not expect that the people he was loyal to were both Lin Yuan and Black. Lu Jie thought of the bits and pieces he had gotten along with Lin Yuan. Such a youth had made the same choice as him when in danger. Lu Jie looked at Lin Yuan and the support-type spirit chi professional called Poison Beauty and could not help but be a little anxious. Given Lu Jie's combat experience, he naturally saw at a glance that Poison Beauty was stalling for time and wanted her support-type Fey to spend time to lay out an attack. Therefore, Lu Jie was a little worried about Lin Yuan now, afraid that he would lose this Celestial Stairway promotion duel because he had given Poison Beauty a lot of time to prepare. Lu Jie knew that Lin Yuan had Chai-Mi, a silver/fantasy breed Fey. However, he never knew how strong Lin Yuan was as a combat class spirit chi professional. In fact, when Poison Beauty had stood up from the ground, her 4 contracted Feys had already taken up their positions. Poison Beauty had been thinking of ways to talk to Black. On one hand, it was for the program effect. On the other hand, he was forcefully suppressing the excitement in his heart. As a streamer who had been stuck in the Celestial Stairway promotion duels in the Star Tower, it was naturally impossible for Poison Beauty to not know about the popularity caused by the duel between Chen Hongfeng and Black. The popularity had increased the number of viewers in Chen Hongfeng's live streaming channel by more than 10 times. Chen Hongfeng's explosive popularity really made Poison Beauty envious. Poison Beauty had been fantasizing about how great it would be if she could meet Black in the Celestial Stairway promotion competition. During the duel between Black and Chen Hongfeng, Poison Beauty had carefully studied Black's combat power. The final conclusion made Poison Beauty very jealous of this Radiance Dollar warrior. In Poison Beauty's opinion, although Black's strength was not bad, its true strength mostly came from the Fae's extremely high quality and species. Poison Beauty felt that if she fought against Black, based on the strength that Black and Chen Hongfeng had displayed, she would have a 100% chance of winning. Poison Beauty did not expect that she would be so lucky to encounter Black today when she matched the Star Web Celestial Stairway promotion duels as usual. Poison Beauty could already foresee that there would be 10 times more viewers in her live streaming channel than before. Poison Beauty was now wholeheartedly thinking of defeating Black in a gorgeous manner in the duel. Poison Beauty believed that as long as she could defeat Black, she would be able to become a popular Star Web duel streamer with absolute topicality and popularity. Upon hearing Black's subconscious words, Poison Beauty was infuriated. However, Poison Beauty did not show it. Instead, she stood there with a concave posture that looked very domineering at first glance but very comical at a closer look. Black, your undefeatable legend will be magnificently ended by me, Poison Beauty, today. Lin Yuan felt that he really could not understand this old woman called Poison Beauty. How can a person be so delusional? I've only obtained some consecutive victories in the Star Tower duels. How am I an undefeatable legend? Moreover, what the hell is a magnificently ending? Doesn't this big sister know how ugly her contracted phase are? At that moment, Lin Yuan ignored Poison Beauty. Instead, he was using true data and the mask that Genius had transformed into to spy on the 4 phase that Poison Beauty had summoned. Fey name: Illusory Mist Jackdaw, Fey species, Feathered Crow/Raven, Fey grade, Gold, 910, Fey type, Water/Poison, Fey quality, Elite abilities: Frowny Face Crow Cry, emits a violent cry that can cause the target to fall into a manic and annoyed mood. Turbid Fog, releases thin fog that contains a lot of water vapor with hallucinogenic effects. Inhaling the water vapor with hallucinogenic effects will cause the target to be in a state of confusion. Life-corroding Cold Fog, the extremely cold fog will gradually slow down the target's movements and accelerate the loss of the target's energy in the cold fog. Boiling Poisonous Fog, releases a kind of fog that will not cause any harm to a healthy target when inhaled into the body. However, if there is a wound on the target's body, the boiling poisonous fog will quickly draw the target's vitality into the fog. Exclusive skill: Frowny Face Illusory Fog, causes the fog to become extremely white and can perfectly isolate the target's line of sight in the fog. The target's visibility in the fog will reach the lowest level. Fey name: Poison Weaving Dark Spider, Fey species, Ornithity/Crown Spider, Fey grade, Gold, 710, Fey type, Poison, Fey quality, Flawless abilities: Frowny Face Spider Silk Spray, shoots an extremely sticky spider silk at the target. The sticky spider silk will adhere to the target's body surface. Poisonous Spider Web, the poisonous web that is shot out is not poisonous, but if there is poison in the air, the spider web will quickly absorb the poison on the poisonous web. At the same time, the poison in the air will be purified and attached to the spider web. Misty Spider Web, can spread the unformed spider web in the silk sac into the air and form a misty spider web. The misty spider web can exist in the air for a short period of time. Weaving Web Attachment, after the misty spider web comes into contact with the poison, it will rapidly absorb the poison's energy and form a complete poisonous spider web. Exclusive skill: Frowny Face Spider Web Attraction, the sticky spider silk will have a natural attraction to the poisonous spider web. After the poisonous spider web is formed, It will automatically cover the sticky spider silk. After seeing Poison Beauty's 2 contracted gold phase true data, Venom Beauty's eyes widened. Lin Yuan immediately knew Poison Beauty's combat style as a support-type Spirit Chi professional. Poison Beauty was really a Spirit Chi professional who had chosen her phase for the Star Tower duel. Poison Beauty's contracted phase weren't suitable for solo combat in the wild. Similarly, Poison Beauty's contracted phase were also extremely unsuitable for teaming up with others. If a combat class Spirit Chi professional took things too hard and teamed up with Poison Beauty, they would probably be affected by her Fey and get poisoned before the battle even started just by staying near her contracted Fey. In addition to the 2 gold Feys, Poison Beauty also had 2 silver Feys. These 2 silver Feys were Silver X/Elite. One of them was a Silver X/Elite Carrion Umbrella Mushroom. Silver X/Elite Carrion Umbrella Mushrooms can release a large number of fungi into the air that accelerate the decay of wounds and toxins that cause healthy skin to rot and bleed. When these fungi and toxins are used, they will directly cover the air. Except for Poison Beauty, the contractor herself. Other life forms, even the other contracted phase, will also be affected by the Carrion Umbrella Mushroom's poisonous gas within the range of the poisonous gas. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.